Hey everyone, welcome to Google I/O Extended Doha. My name is Sachin. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm also the head of Google Developer Groups Doha. I also do the Google for Startup Accelerator mentor, and I'm a CTO. So we have a lot of exciting sessions lined up for you all today. So without further ado, let's get started. So as part of the whole I/O experience, I'm not sure how many of you actually watched the live stream, but the aim of today's session is to bring in experts from the industry. We have Googlers joining us today for the live stream. It's your opportunity to make sure you get the most out of this event based on product announcements, restreams, as well as asking questions to the experts directly live. And this is once in a lifetime opportunity. And along with that, I also have to say we have some very exciting news for you all today. So if you're just joining us, make sure to let us know where you're joining us from. Leave your name, comments. Make this as interactive as possible because we have a lot of things for you in store today. So the whole aim of today's session is to make sure that we bring back some of the I/O experience back to the community. So for people who are joining us once again, welcome to Google I/O Extended. My name is Sachin. I'm a Google developer expert. I also head the Google developer groups in Doha. I also have my team who's moderating the live chat today. So make sure to leave your comments and the chat in the live chat section. So the first session for today is going to be updates from Google I/O and what I'm more passionate and more excited about. So we'll go through some of that. But before that, let me actually set the agenda right. So the first thing that we do is from 6 to 6:30, we're going to run through some important updates from Google I/O. And after that, we'll go through a very special episode. And again, I'm saying this for everyone who's joining us and who've joined us in the past. We have a very special guest from Google who's joining us today for the second session. He is Nasser Ahmed. He's the head of Google Cloud Learning Services in the MENA region. So this is, again, once in a lifetime opportunity for you all to interact with him live today during this session. And along with that, for all the people who are joining us today, you're lucky because you are in store for a huge surprise. We are giving away swags. We are giving away around 25 Chromebooks. So if you're in for the ride, make sure to stay tuned, go through the whole session, and the how to get those swags would be announced later in the session. So stay tuned for that. And after that, we have building smarter solutions with no expertise in ML. So if you're a person who wants to know how to build something in machine learning, but I don't have any machine learning background, how can you do that? So we have Laurent, who's again joining us from Google. So he would actually take you through how to build smarter solutions with no or zero expertise in ML. So we have Google Cloud ML solutions for that, and he would basically take you through the entire session, and we also have games in store for you. Then after that, we have a special episode from two of our women tech makers. One is from Rachael, and another one is Wafa. So at 8 p.m., you'll have Rachael taking you through AutoML vision and how to train your own ML models for images using AutoML. And finally, we have Wafa, who will be taking you through some cool Angular stuff. So all about Tailwind CSS and Inline SASS. So I can see the live chats coming in. And thank you all for joining. Once again, welcome to Google I/O Extended Doha. So in terms of the next session, let's get on with it. So first is the I/O highlights. So I'm not sure how many of you had got the experience to go through the entire I/O, but what we did over here is to give you a small glimpse or highlights from Google I/O.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back at I/O. At Google, the past year has given renewed purpose to our mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. We continue to approach that mission with a singular goal: building a more helpful Google for everyone.
For over a decade, we've been pushing documents toward collaborative, linked content inspired by the web. Smart Canvas is our next big step. And this fall, we're excited to bring Meet directly into docs, sheets, and slides for the first time.
Today, I'm excited to share our latest breakthrough in natural language understanding, Lambda. It's a language model for dialogue applications. Natural conversations are generative, and they never take the same path twice. Lambda is able to carry a conversation no matter what we talk about. Let's see what happened when we talk to a paper airplane.
What's the worst place you've ever landed?
That would have to be in a puddle. I was just barely still intact, so I was stuck there for a few minutes. It was quite annoying.
But it is still trained only on text. So we need to build models that allow people to naturally ask questions across different types of information. These are called multimodal models. For example, when you say, "Show me the part where the lion roars at sunset," we will get you to that exact moment in a video. 2 years ago at I/O, I announced Auto Delete. We've since made Auto Delete the default for all new Google accounts. Now, after 18 months, we automatically delete your activity data, and this is now active for over 2 billion accounts.
We want to free everyone from password pain. Password alerts will let you know if we detect any of your saved passwords have become compromised in a third-party breach. And a quick fix feature in Chrome. The assistant will help you navigate directly to your compromised accounts and change your passwords in seconds.
Today, I'm excited to announce the TPU v4. A single v4 pod contains 4,096 v4 chips, and each pod has 10x the interconnect bandwidth per chip at scale compared to any other networking technology. Achieving our quantum milestone was a tremendous accomplishment, but we are still at the very beginning of a multi-year journey. We hope to one day create an error-corrected quantum computer. And success could mean everything from increasing battery efficiency to creating more sustainable energy to improved drug discovery and so much more.
You might ask, I've hiked Mount Adams, and now want to hike Mount Fuji next fall. What should I do differently to prepare? But search engines today can't answer it directly because it's so conversational and nuanced. MUM is changing the game. With its language understanding capabilities, it's highlighting that Mount Fuji is roughly the same elevation as Mount Adams. But fall is the rainy season in Mount Fuji, so you might need a waterproof jacket.
You gotta scan the floor. Let's scan the area. Ooh, and she's here. She goes for the triple-double.
This is very accurate.
Nails it.
Around the world, people use Lens to translate over 1 billion words every day. So now, we're rolling out a new capability that combines visual translation with educational content from the web. For instance, you can easily snap a photo of a science problem, and Lens will provide learning resources in your preferred language.
Advances in AI are helping us reimagine what a map can be. This year alone, we're on track to release more than 100 AI-driven improvements. We're adding prominent virtual street signs to help you navigate complex intersections. We're bringing it indoors to help you get around some of the hardest to navigate buildings.
Google Maps will soon give you the option to take the most fuel-efficient route. At scale, this has potential to significantly reduce emissions and fuel consumption.
More than 1 billion times a day, people are shopping across Google. Shopping inspiration often strikes when we see something we like in the world around us. When you view any screenshots in Google Photos, there'll be a suggestion to search photo with Lens. You'll see organic search results that can help you find that pair of shoes or browse similar styles.
Today, there are more than 4 trillion photos and videos stored in Google Photos. Soon, we're launching Little Patterns, Little patterns show the magic in everyday moments by identifying not so obvious patterns in the photos you take and resurfacing them to you.
Beauty is personal. To face this challenge, we imagined Material You, a new design that includes you as a co-creator, letting you transform the look and feel of all your apps.
Just this week, we crossed an amazing milestone. There are now 3 billion active Android devices around the world. But let's start by taking a look at our new UI for Android. We've overhauled everything, revamping the way we use color, shapes, light, and motion, inspired by Material You. We've got something new planned for Google Pixel, using what we call color extraction. The system creates a custom palette based on the colors in my photo. The result is a one-of-a-kind design, just for you. Samsung and Google have a long history of collaborating, and now we're combining the best of our 2 operating systems into a unified platform focused on faster performance, longer battery life, and a thriving developer community. To make smartphone photography truly for everyone, we've been working with a group of industry experts to build a more accurate and inclusive camera. We're making auto white balance adjustments and algorithmically reducing stray light to bring out natural brown tones and prevent the over-brightening and desaturation of darker skin tones.
We've been working to make mammography better. And now we're collaborating with Northwestern Medicine on an investigative device research study to better understand how AI can apply to the breast cancer screening process. Technology can and should help close the equity gap.
We were all grateful to have video conferencing over the last year, but there is no substitute for being together in the room with someone. So several years ago, we kicked off a project to use technology to explore what's possible. We call it Project Starline. It's early and currently available in just a few of our offices, but we thought it'd be fun to give you a look at people experiencing it for the first time. Using high-resolution cameras and custom-built depth sensors, we capture your shape and appearance from multiple perspectives. And we have developed a breakthrough light field display that shows you the realistic representation of someone sitting right in front of you in 3 dimensions. By 2030, we aim to operate on carbon-free energy 24/7. And today, I'm excited to announce we are the first company to implement carbon-intelligent load shifting across both time and place within our data center network. Investments like these are needed to get to 24/7 carbon-free energy. And it's happening right here in Mountain View too. We are building our new campus to the highest sustainability standards. Over the past year, we've seen how technology can be used to help billions of people through the most difficult of times. It's made us more committed than ever to our goal of building a more helpful Google for everyone. I hope to see you in person next year.
So before we continue with our event, as always, here's just a code of conduct for everyone who's joining us in the live stream and on the live chat section. Be respectful to each other. Speak up if you see or hear something. And there's zero tolerance policy for any online harassment. I'm sure that we are all here to enjoy this wonderful session. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of learn more from the community is what is the feature that you have seen from the highlights, which is the most exciting feature for you. And right now we'll be highlighting some of these comments. So make sure that you list down your favorite features in the live comments. So I can see someone has said, machine learning. We have another person who said, Android 12 is the most accessible feature, but Lambda is my favorite. So for the user 7 to heaven, as I'm a Google developer expert as well as for the Google Assistant. Yes, Lambda is definitely something that I'm most looking forward to. And I'm pretty sure that that would trickle down to the Google Assistant experience as well. So what else? We have Lambda again from Lijo. Thank you all for joining us today. We have Lens. Google Lens, yes, Google Lens was another interesting announcement as well. So where you have the ability to just scan the image, and then it can actually solve problems for you just by looking at the image. So one of the common theme that I found out as part of the entire I/O experience is how AI and ML is deeply integrated in each and every product. So we have Said saying Google Lens as well. Mohammed, who said Android 12's UI, perfect. Navigation, maps, Lambda. So Rex is saying Lambda. And again, I'm not sure how many of you actually saw the Google Maps feature as well. So indoor navigation is coming, and the ability for you to actually interact the world through AR is another important feature. So we will actually see, as part of this entire session, we'll also see how we can see some of these things actually working in real time during this session. So I'm just going to take you all through some of the highlights that I feel is most important from a developer community, and especially in Qatar, where a lot of startups have come into existence, and we are going through a new journey in terms of building a complete startup ecosystem, as well as the entire developer ecosystem in Qatar. So for everyone who's joining us today, thank you all once again for joining the Google I/O Extended Doha. So what's new in Android? So these small sessions would give you a snippet of what you can expect in Android. As you have seen, the biggest announcement was Android 12. Now, with Android 12, along with that, you also have the ability or the tools to create beautiful apps, and that too with much more ease. And finally, you also have the ability to build across more screens. So part of the announcements from Android was also the fact that now you can also build for, there's a new Wear OS ecosystem coming. So for people who are interested in building for smartwatches, stay tuned for that. And then for people who are actually building across multiple screens, again, we have different screens. So you can see how the industry is moving more towards foldable phones and tablets and different screen sizes. So with these new tools that they have offered or announced in Google I/O, it will be much more easier for developers to build that. So I'm gonna quickly take you through Material U. So what is Material U is, imagine as part of, again, the next pixel experience, what you would see is in Android 12, you can actually customize your entire phone based on your wallpaper. So let's say the wallpaper is something that's very personal to each and every one of us. Right now, something that I've seen happen in the industry is every phone kind of looks the same to some extent, and every screen that you're looking at it, even the OS, everything looks similar. And one beautiful thing about Material U is now each and everyone's phone would look and feel different because it's your own personal phone. Everything is personalized based on your content. So that's Material U for you. Here's a very short video explaining what is Material U. And what's new in web? Again, there's more increased power, performance, and privacy. So I'm sure that during the pandemic, we all went back to the power of Google Meets, where we had to chat with our coworkers, with our loved ones. And I'm sure this is difficult for each and everyone. And at least with the advancements that's being done in the web, we've all been able to easily navigate and reach out to our loved ones easily. So a lot of improvements have been done in terms of web. But as a developer, one of the things that I would highly encourage everyone to actually check out would be PW apps or progressive web apps. So what are progressive web apps? So these are applications that you can actually build once. So just like your web application, you can just build this. And once that is done, what you would do is, let's actually go to the web. So I can paste this link in the comment section as well so that you can actually go through with it as well. So progressive web apps are basically a way for you to actually build your web applications such that when you go to any, irrelevant of whichever the operating system that you're in, be it Android, iOS, anyone with a link to your application, when they visit the site, you would get a notification on the top saying install app. Once the app is installed, it will automatically behave like a native application. So if you've had an opportunity to go through the Google Chat, the new Google Chat, you would see that once you go to chat.google.com, on the top right in the address bar, you will see a plus icon or an install icon. So when you click on install, it will install that application on the web, on the desktop, if you're on a desktop. On the mobile, it will install it onto your home screen. So it will just behave and act just like a native application, but without the need for you to actually direct the users to App Store and Play Store. Okay, so that's basically progressive web apps. So the next one would be to, let's go back here. So the next interesting announcement for me was from Flutter from a developer standpoint. So what is Flutter? And just let me know how many of you have actually started using Flutter as part of your development ecosystem. So Flutter is, again, an open source UI toolkit by Google. So it's one of the first UI platforms designed for an ambient computing world. So again, Flutter is a platform where you can actually design and build for both Android and iOS. And recently with the Flutter 2.2, you can also have the same experience on web as well as desktop. So you basically build once and have this available across different platforms. So I can see some of the comments coming here saying that they're still learning. Of course, we're all learning and we will never end it. I'm happy that all of you are looking into this. And for the next one would be an announcement from Firebase. For people who are actually interested and who are actually using Firebase, we have a lot more exciting news for you in this aspect, because now you can accelerate your app development by using a new feature that Firebase announced. So you can also ensure high quality experiences and keep users engaged. So what is this new announcements? So this is nothing but Firebase extensions. So if you want to see Firebase extensions, make sure that you visit firebase.google.com/products/extensions. So just to give you a quick look at what are extensions. So when you click on this, you would basically see how easy it is for you to quickly build an application from scratch. So let's assume that you're building a product, building an application, and you want to quickly have a way to add payments into your application. a payment gateway into your application. You can actually come here and use all of these extensions in a quick and easy way. So you can use send invoices using Stripe. You can, if you are doing something of a translation, you can use translate text as another feature. You can run subscription payments with Stripe as well. So let's say you want to make sure you add subscription to the users, so you can actually build that. Send messages with MessageBird, MailChimp. A lot of these extensions are readily available and the list will grow. So make sure to check Firebase extensions. And for the last part, before we move ahead to the next session, which is the most important session for tonight, we have Nasser, who's joining us from Google. So he's the head of Google Cloud MENA, Google Cloud Learning Services MENA. So make sure to tune in for the next session. And before that, since as part of the tradition that we all used to do, you know that when we used to have our Google I/O events, we used to join all of us together and we used to have a photo session. So right now, what I would encourage everyone to do is, if you want to see some of these announcements in actual use. So here is an app that is built using Flutter and Firebase. So all you need to do is go to photobooth.flutter.dev. Again, it's photobooth.flutter.dev, and I'm going to post that in the comment section as well. So what you could do is, once the thing is loaded up, you can actually add characters based on different features and take a photo and make sure to share it on social media and tag GDG Doha as well. So in that way, we have a way for all of us to see you all personally, and then we can highlight those tweets and in other social media channels. So in this case, let's see. So you can see welcome to IO Photo Booth. So you can click on Get Started. And over here, you have the opportunity to add some friends. So here you can see this is from Flutter. I can add them here. So Firebase, I'm gonna add them somewhere over here. And then we have Android and the Dino. Maybe he can stand here. So with that, you can just post for the photo. So I'm just gonna do here. I hope all of you are trying this as well. So let's do this together in 3, 2, 1. And there you go. So once you're done with that, you can show the photo. You'll have all of the things, and you'll also see, you can share this later on directly with all of us in social media channels. So make sure to do that. We'll be looking forward to that as well. And finally, what's new in machine learning? You'll learn a lot of these today in today's session. And with that, I just have to say, as a community, it is important for us to innovate, share, and collaborate to learn and grow together. With that, we are ending the first session, and the next section is going to be a very special episode. So for everyone who's looking forward to those Chromebooks, stay tuned. So this is what it's going to be. This is it. Listen carefully for all the announcements that's happening. And with that, what we can then do is continue with our next session. So we'll be bringing up Nasser on the screen shortly. So let us know what you enjoyed as part of the Google I/O experience for the first session in the comment section. And also let us know if you have done the Flutter.dev, photobooth.flutter.dev which is mentioned in the comments as well. Hi, Nasser.
Sachin, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Yeah, great. It's such a pleasure to be here. This is like a long time in the making for us to get to this point. So yeah,
definitely. So I think Nasser, before we get started with the entire show, thank you all, and again on behalf of the entire community, thank you all. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for joining us today to be part of this Google I/O extended session. And I think we have a lot of questions for you today, but more than that, for people who don't know Nasser, Nasser is the head of Google Cloud Learning Services. He has over 20 years of experience in the industry, and he's a trusted advisor to a lot of companies and Fortune 500 companies as well. And apart from all of that, we actually have Nasser, who is one of those rare Googlers who's also been with the company for more than 10 years. So again, we've gone through a lot of Googlers in the past as part of the Google developer groups community. But I'm more excited to have Nasser today because of his huge experience that he brings to the table and how that would translate to what that's going to translate to this part of the region, especially in Qatar. So once again, Nasser, thank you for joining us, and I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, just real pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be a part of the developer community. It's a chance to really connect with people who are on the ground and really developing, and as a fellow developer as well. So I'm also a Google Cloud professional architect, a certified person. So I've been through the process. So everything that I'm going to talk about a bit later, I've sort of been through the experience of learning and developing. So I'm hoping that sort of gives me the credibility to sort of talk about some of the things that we're going to mention today. So, and then also, if you'll notice in the top corner here, I have my own personalized Google Doodle. So when you get to 10 years at Google, they ask you to select a doodle that's personalized to you as to commemorate your time at the company. So yeah, humbled and privileged to be here, Sachin.
I mean, the privilege is actually ours, Nasser. And I've heard a lot of announcements that's coming our way today. And as part of that is the whole new announcement about Google Cloud in Qatar and in the region. So before we actually get on with some of those questions, I would like to see and learn more about the data centers that's actually being inside the country. So can you just give us a glimpse of or what is actually happening in terms of the data centers?
Sure, yeah. So the developments that are currently happening are investing heavily into Qatar, and these are things that will be happening towards later in the year. There will be 3 new data centers that we've announced. Along that, there will be a number of obviously services that come as a result of that, and coupled with the actual announcement of the investment into the region is also the new Google office that's going to open up as well in later on in the year as well. That's set for Q3, Q4, so September, October timeframe. We've already started to hire, so we have a new country manager, Ghassan Costa. I think he's been a guest on the show previously, yeah. So from a investment perspective, Google is really making headway into the region, and in fact, it's one of many announcements that's going to come from a regional perspective. And we're starting with Qatar, one of the most important territories in the region. So,
perfect. So I can see some of the comments come in. So, oh wow, how did I never hear about this? So again, for the community. Now you have it. Now you know that Google Cloud is officially here in Qatar, and there is going to be the office is going to come out as well. We have a country manager. We have a lot of and again, once again, how many employees in so far in Qatar?
So currently 9 employees, but I mean, who knows? If we get a number of people certified and who already have some skills, I mean, we're going to be looking to hire some of the folks who are in country and eager to help expand the community. So this is a real opportunity. I think we're starting with 9, and at the moment, I think the biggest office in the region is Dubai, with in excess of 200 people. So I don't see any reason us growing to that scale in Doha as well. So it's
definitely. I got the opportunity to visit the Dubai office as well, and I'm super excited to actually. I mean, when we actually started the community, just so that you know, Nasser, one of our mission was to actually have Google as part of within this region, and I'm super excited and stoked that we finally have that over here, and I can see. Yay, it's the beginning of an exciting success story in Qatar and region. So this is from Maud. And we have Wafa saying there was a press release about it. Yes, there was a press release about it. And for people who are just hearing this, yes, Google Cloud is again here in Qatar, and they have an office. And apart from that, speaking of certifications and other things, Nasser, I'm sure that you have something to be announced in terms of the Center of Excellence, right? So
exactly,
can you just give us an idea about what is this Center of Excellence and how does this translate to everyone over here and who's going to watch past this session, and also for the entire developer and startup ecosystem here?
Sure, yeah. It's, I mean, I think part of this is about, I mean, the challenges we've had in the last few months with regard to the lockdowns and various other things have meant that physical sort of activity and doing things face to face has been really tough. So the Center of Excellence, the vision is to have a physical space that will be in Qatar that we will invite Google developer group individuals to come and experience a very sort of Google setup in terms of an office, and there'll be spaces to work and collaborate and so forth. So the physical aspects of what we're trying to do will probably come alive more in 2022. But what we're starting with is a virtual Center of Excellence, and the plan there is to really offer a number of foundational and sort of advanced courses and learning paths, so that we can start to help develop your skills and get you ready for the sort of barrage of offers and work that we expect folks to get as a result of being cloud certified on Google Cloud, of which, by the way, one of the certifications is that most highly paying cert. So our cloud architect, professional cloud architect certification is actually the most highest paying certification of all sort of technical certifications in the last, I think it's 24 months. So we have, we've got the data to prove that. And as I mentioned, the plan is to start with some foundational elements. So we're going to run some cloud onboard events, and those will be 2 to 3 hours sessions. There'll be multiple sessions that you'll be able to pick from, and they'll really get people introduced to the Google Cloud stack, talking about core infrastructure, some of the data products we have, and really get you sort of get you the basics around the actual technology and the various components that the Google Cloud platform has. And then, as I said, there'll be some advanced things that we'll layer on top of that, which will happen a little bit later in August, where we'll be running 3 specific tracks for 3 certifications that we'll be running. So yeah, it's real exciting.
Yeah, and I can see some of the comments come through as well. So the Center of Excellence will be such an opportunity to grow skills and boost talents. And I did see from a university student. So as a university student, this is a great opportunity for myself as well. So very excited. And not only for university students, for every developer as part of within Qatar, this is actually a huge opportunity, because as part of the Center of Excellence, as Nasser mentioned, some of these certification programs that's being offered is on top line. So you can actually go and search, like especially the cloud architect certifications. So these people who are certified are the ones who actually get paid the topmost. And I've seen that, so make sure that you try that out. And not only that, it's just not about certifications. Nasser and his team here in Qatar is, I believe, Nasser, and I'm talking on your behalf, is here to help us actually get there. And not only just from a certification standpoint, but from a knowledge standpoint, from personal growth standpoint, we are here. And as part of the community, we're all here to help each other. And the focus would be to kind of take you through this journey where you build and learn the skills. And we provide all the necessary tools that we can provide to help you get to the place where you want to be. So let's look at some of the comments. Says, sounds amazing. Will there be a cost to the training programs?
Yeah, very interesting question. So this is 100% free. So we're going to be providing, let's get into some specifics here. So the introductory sessions, the foundational sessions, 2 to 3 hour, we will have, I think it's almost 1,000 slots available. And that will be kind of an introduction to Google Cloud Platform. And then the actual certification tracks, we will have roughly between about 400 seats available. And that's like a couple of $1,000 worth of training, which isn't just on demand. So it won't be consuming a video recording. There will be live instructors who will be doing between 2 and 3 days of live training with you. So you'll start with a live face-to-face, not face-to-face, but live virtual session with an individual who's a Google Cloud expert. And then, so each of the programs will be between 7 and 11 weeks. So it's quite an investment of time on your part, of which so for the entire period, it's roughly 40 weeks. So anybody who's a student or a developer hopefully should be able to make time for this. It's a few hours a day. And as I said to you, sort of this is being provided for free. Limited seats though, so we'll have 400 seats that we'll start with for this year. And as I said, there will be a 7-week program for the associate cloud engineer. The cloud architect is 11 weeks, and then the professional data engineer is 7 weeks. So you'll go through the program, you'll have other people in your cohort, you'll go through from literally from 0 to 60, from the basics all the way to the most complex concepts, including the labs. So if you've not experienced quick labs, it's our way of actually interacting with a live Google Cloud Platform instance, where you're actually earning skill badges as you're going through and doing labs and doing the sort of self-study, which is also another part of this as well. So really, I mean, it's a real opportunity. And we're going to mention, I think there's a link that people can use to firstly, obviously, to sign up for the onboard events. In fact, that's the part where we're giving away the Chromebook. So if you sign up for the onboard event and you come and attend, that's sort of your eligibility criteria to claim your Chromebook.
There you have it, everyone. So it's broken right now. So this is the huge announcement that we had, not just because it's Chromebooks, but it's because of the entire thing that's actually happening within Qatar and within this region. So I'm super excited, Nasser. Thank you and the entire team behind this initiative, because for some of these training resources, if there's a person outside this ecosystem who's looking for it, they'd actually spend quite an amount of dollars to, have access to some of these things. And with this, I think you mentioned around 400 seats for this year, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's going to be 4 tracks that we'll have available. And we'll have 100 people in each of those tracks. So it'll be very specific. So we'll handpick the folks who we determine to be eligible. And obviously, one of the prerequisites I'll say off the bat is you've got to be in Qatar. That's like the prerequisite, because we're investing in region, and we'll find a way of checking, making sure Sachin's on the ground, and there's a few other people on the ground who will make sure that you'll fulfill the eligibility criteria. But a couple of other quick points to make. So as well as Google investing, there's a lot of partners who we're going to be working with as well. So it isn't just about what's happening in terms of Google investing. There'll be a lot of partners who will be doing a lot of the delivery work for some of the bigger companies sort of in Qatar in terms of their transition to cloud. So there's not just the opportunity from a Google perspective, but there's a wider partner and ISV community opportunity that's going to open up. And I think if you look at anything that Google does with regard to our sort of very agnostic approach towards cloud, if you look at things like our announcements around Anthos, we actually want to try to, and our sort of investments in open source as well, we really want to make the sort of shift to cloud not just something that is sort of transient and something that is a sort of temporary thing. We really want to invest in the local region, and also the sort of the talent and the technical skills and the developers in region to help make that possible as well. This sort of transition that we're seeing happening, and to whatever cloud provider that might be, and that it might be strange to hear someone from Google say, helping you transition to any cloud provider. That's actually the sort of, we want to try and be as agnostic, but obviously we want you to feel obliged that obviously some of the things that we provide from a data perspective, where we've proven, with 9 products which are over 1 billion users, ranging from Maps to Gmail to Android, we've proven that we have the platform that can deliver not just for Google services, but for a variety of customers of services, ranging from financial services like HSBC as an example, or if there's Spotify users on the chat, Spotify runs 100% on Google Cloud, and
Right.
the data capabilities they have are just off the back of moving to Google infrastructure. It means they can take advantage of a lot of the things, the services that we provide. So really exciting times, and I can't stress enough how sort of excited we are to get people onto the program.
And we are excited as well, Nasser, because it's interesting that you pointed out some of those companies. And with the data center actually being within this country, that opens up a lot more opportunities for the companies here in Qatar. So again, all the developers, all the startups, all the companies, here's your unique chance to make use of this entire ecosystem and the tools and the infrastructure that is being built in Google Cloud Qatar. And with that, what I would like to do is, before I actually reveal the entire link to how to get the 25 Chromebooks, of course, I'm just teasing everyone over here. I'm sure that the frustrations have come through, but what we'll like to do is to see some of the chat and see what's the reaction from the participants.
Actually, Sachin, there's one question actually that Ahmed is asking. So will it be eligible for a freshman, sophomore to register for the training? And should I have some experience in the field? It's a very relevant question, because so eligibility, if you're a student, you're way up there in terms of the priority list for us, obviously, as well as more seasoned developers. But we really want to get you in the driving seat, as they say, with regard to Google Cloud. So yes, if you've got the time, if you've got the will, as I said, it's 7 to 11 week program, roughly 40 weeks in total. It would be, I think, advantageous for you to sort of take that in. So there are some basic, and Deepa's asking about the eligibility around the cert program. So, there are some prerequisites for the associate cloud engineer. So you need to have at least 6 months experience of sort of developer at stroke cloud to take the cert. So there's nothing stopping you from taking the exam. Anyone can take the exam, and you can ramp up in terms of your learning and doing labs and your reading. But yeah, to take the cert, it's advised that you have at least 6 months worth of experience on sort of cloud-related tech. If you're already a developer, then a lot of what they're going to talk about in terms of infrastructure, data, app modernization, those elements, they're going to be familiar. You're going to be super familiar with what's going on. If you're completely new to development, then the sort of on-ramp and the learning curve is going to be a little bit steeper. But I've seen many people who've decided to switch careers and who've decided that, look, what I was doing before isn't for me, and I'd love to embrace, sort of the tech side of the world, and so be it. The other thing as well, Sachin, that we're going to have to come back and talk about is the Cloud Digital Leader Certificate, which is a non-technical cert, which I'll come back and talk about that when we're sort of later in the year.
Definitely, Nasser. So I think as part of I can actually speak on behalf of this person, but just to give you all an experience of what the developer community is we have had experiences where people from a different background, no development background at all, and I can confidently say this person, he was a security guard, and he came in, he participated in our events, and he actually won, believe it or not, two hackathons. And the last time I met him, when I gave him the prize, he said, I'm actually looking to switch my career. I'm applying for developer jobs here. So it doesn't matter which job that you have or what's your profession right now. As long as this excites you, you're passionate about it, go ahead. You can apply for all of these certifications. Of course, to take the exam, you need to go through the course and get confident and hands-on experience. And as part of the hands-on experience, another thing that we'll be talking about is I have my own YouTube channel as well, and Nasser will also be part of it. He will come in as a guest. He would, in fact, he would also be part of training you guys in that as well. So you have multiple venues where you can actually go and learn all of these things from. And with that, Nasser, I think it's time that we let them know.
We can put the link up.
Reveal the link.
One other thing. So once things get back to normal, the physical space that we're going to open up, the actual center of excellence, that will be a place you can come. We'll have classrooms. There'll be sort of areas in which you can come in and do sort of clinics. There's a startup and incubator element to it as well. And then even on the digital marketing side, there's also you'll notice hopefully when we bring up the page, you'll see there's some elements around cloud. There's some digital marketing elements as well. And then also the actual details around some of the other programs around startups and incubation as well. So if you've got an idea, if you're already a budding entrepreneur, then this is the other thing that we're looking to invest in the region as well, all of these creative startups that are there. So
definitely. So if everyone is ready, make sure to watch out for the link in the comment section, and we should have our moderators paste the comments in the links in the comment section shortly. While we actually do that, let me actually share the screen, and we can actually go through this together.
Yep, this is it. This is our page. There's still some minor modifications that we need to make to it, but if you click on the certification, the cloud, that tab.
So once you have the link, make sure that you go to Become a Cloud Expert. And once you click on Become a Cloud Expert, so this is where you actually sign up. So all the information regarding the entire process would be mentioned here. Okay, and also the different...
the 3 certs that you can see here. That I mentioned the Associate Cloud Engineer. you've got the professional cloud architect, and then the professional data engineer. Do not underestimate the power of that particular certification, the one at the end there. This is effectively where most companies are investing in. They're producing a lot of data, and they're not using that data to make their company more efficient, to target better customers. So whatever you're looking at, and I know most people will be looking at sort of the cloud engineer elements and the professional cloud architect, but that data piece, it's almost like, you have economies that need to run efficiently and use their resources efficiently. And data is one of those things which is not being used efficiently enough. You can see that in the way that most companies will market to you, the messages they send you in emails, in SMSs. Sometimes they don't feel right because they have been incorrectly targeted to you. And that's where knowing about the various data products that Google has and becoming a professional data engineer will help you get on that path. So yeah, super interesting.
This is great, Nasser, and I think for everyone who's, let's see if the links are mentioned. Yeah, so make sure to go to that specific link. Again, the entire information and the links will be mentioned for people who are joining us after the live stream. Check out the description and the comment section. We will actually have this link pasted over there as well. So what you need to do once you click on Become a Cloud Expert, click Sign Up. And once you do the sign up, make sure to fill in all the information over here and select a cohort. But the people who would be getting the 25, one of the 25 Chromebooks would be when you complete the Google Cloud Onboard event. That's right, Nasser?
Yeah, correct. So the point of that is to give an introduction. So even if you're familiar with the cloud and you're familiar with GCP, Google Cloud Platform, attending that event will give you sort of the 101 on the breadth of what we provide from a cloud perspective. So it's encouraged. If you're new to it, this is perfect. It gives you that intro. And then the next step then is the certification. So even if you sign up and you just click the onboard event, it's fine. We'll sort of follow up with you about which certification track you want to sort of join later. So no need to worry. If you're more advanced and you're already familiar, then select one of the certification tracks above. I think it's the top 3. There are some other digital marketing options there, which were there sort of just put for sort of from a reference perspective, but we're sort of focusing on those top 3 to begin with. So yeah, just share with us what and you can select the onboard and your preferred
cohort,
learning path and cohort. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, select.
So that's the big news, everyone. So make sure you go to this link, get this completed. The first 25 will be eligible for a Chromebook. Again, the prerequisite is you need to be in Qatar. So right now, since we have the Center of Excellence, we have the Google Cloud in Qatar, it's easy for us to send out these devices. So make sure that you need to be in Qatar and fill up this specific form and complete the Google Cloud Onboard event. And all the best to everyone who's actually going to do this. And apart from that, thank you, Nasser. Thank you and your entire team for all the developments that you guys are doing as part of within this region and the MENA region. And I wish you all the best for all the other things that you're doing around the region as well. And thank you once again for having us and for being part of this event. I'm sure the developer community enjoyed your session, and we would like to see you more and more as part of the upcoming future events as well.
Absolutely. Would love to come back and even go into a technical session as well on some of the ML and AI elements and the Firebase stuff that you were demoing earlier. So happy to come in and roll sleeves up and get into some tech stuff as well. But it's been a real pleasure being with everyone, and excited to see you hopefully in person 2022 when we have the the actual Center of Excellence open, and we can start inviting people face to face. So super excited, and yep, thanks for having me, Sachin.
Thanks a lot, Nasser. Thanks for being here. With that, everyone, we'll move on to the very next session. So in the meantime, make sure that you check out the link. And we will be highlighting some of these comments as well. So make sure to have the comments coming in. So for the next session, we have let's go through the next session. So we have building smarter solutions with no expertise in ML. So this is from Laurent Picard. So again, he's a Googler who's joined us, and we are so happy to have him as part of this session. And this is going to be a very interesting session because Laurent, again, brings in years of experience behind him. And not only that, for everyone who's actually thinking about how to build ML applications and solutions, here's your chance, because you're going to build something today with no expertise in ML. So with that, I'm going to bring in Laurent, and we can go through with the next session. Hi, Laurent.
Hello. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well. Thank you, Laurent. Thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Sachin. I head the Google Developer Groups in Doha. I'm also a Google Developer Expert, as well as the Google for Startup Accelerator Mentor. So as part of GDG Doha, thank you for joining us today. And we are all excited to actually have you talk about ML. And again, one of the key areas is especially the part that you don't need to have any prior experience in ML to build some of these products. So thank you once again on behalf of the entire community. And for the community, make sure that you leave all the questions and queries in the comment section. We will be highlighting those to Laurent as well. So make sure to have the chat come through. And Laurent, I'll leave it to you. Take it over.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. First of all, thanks a lot for having me. So my name is Laurent Picard. As you can guess, most probably with my French accent, I am from France. And I'm speaking right now from Paris. We are just 1 hour away. So it's 6 p.m. right now by Sun time anyway. My goal today is to speak to you about machine learning. But the funny thing is that I'm not an expert, right? I'm not an expert, and yet I will speak to you about machine learning, but in a way, a special way, from the perspective of a developer without any expertise. And I joined Google Cloud 4 years ago, and I've always been amazed by what cloud technologies can bring, and machine learning is one of them. Okay, and so my goal today is to show you as many examples as possible. There will be a live demo. So if you have a webcam on your smartphone, if you have a smartphone or a laptop with a webcam, in, let's say, about 40 minutes, we will do a live demo all together. So you'll be able to send me selfies and we will do a live analysis. There's a small 10-15 seconds delay between the time I speak and the time it is on YouTube Live, but it should work pretty well. Okay, so maybe just a quick introduction. So my name is Laurent Picard. I live in Paris. You can follow me at Picard Paris on Twitter, Medium, and so on. So I'm a developer advocate, and I joined Google Cloud 4 years ago. And before that, so I have something like 25 years of experience. Before that, in a past life, I worked for 17 years in the ebook industry, and I was actually a pioneer in the field. I co-founded Bookin, which was one of the first makers of ebook devices. And so I discovered with experience that cloud technologies were just superpowers. Okay, and I'm just gonna share with you one part of it, of this experience today. I love this quote from Arthur C. Clarke, because magic is, after a few years, is still what I feel like when I see something new develop with machine learning. It looks like magic, right? But we are all technology practitioners, right? And we can scratch a little bit the surface, and that's just technology, okay? And my goal today is to try to inspire you, and ideally to give you ideas of something maybe that you can do. Maybe you can make your own solution smarter. I've seen some developers building solutions from scratch after this talk and having new ideas, and that's the best I could hope for, okay? So here's my definition of machine learning. I'm pretty sure you know it, but that's how I've experienced machine learning for a few years. We have data as input, and we'd like to understand what is in our data, right? We want to extract information out of it. So of course, this definition is incorrect because the definition by experts is that machine learning is a subset of AI, and within machine learning, deep learning is maybe the subset that has been bringing most of the progress over the last years. So I'll be using the term machine learning because it's a very generic one, and that's what we see in most applications as of today. But keep in mind that whenever we are dealing with neural networks, we are actually speaking about deep learning. And so how does deep learning work? So in fact, experts over 40 years ago, researchers thought they wondered whether they could mimic the way our brain works, right? With synapses, neurons, connections with a neural network. And for that, they used, and we still use, many examples, right? Real life examples where we can use these examples and say, okay, this is the result that I'm expecting. This is the prediction that I want to make. And if you think about it, that's pretty much how we learn. As kids, we learn from sisters and brothers, from parents, from friends, from teachers. And whenever, most of the time, it's by seeing examples. So maybe machine learning is very close to the way our brain works. And the magic there, the result, the magic is that we manage to solve, or experts manage to solve problems that we couldn't solve before. Okay, and I'm gonna try to show you many examples about it. But why is it possible? Of course, science brings us centuries of theory, right? Especially in mathematics, physics, and so on. For about 20 years, we are able to deal with big amounts of data, big data, right? We can store a lot of data on hard drives, SSD now, very fast. But in the cloud, we can store petabytes of data. And for less than 10 years now, I would say rather 5 years, we have access to very high computing powers, especially with big VMs in the cloud. Of course, computers are very powerful, but we can distribute computations in the cloud over 200, 400 CPUs, vCPUs, if we want. And this is why machine learning is working right now, and it couldn't work well at least 40 years ago, or even 10 years ago. So this is maybe the schema that you can keep in mind. How can we develop? How can we work? How can we integrate machine learning today? There are 3 ways. Of course, the legacy one, you can develop expertise. Maybe you are an expert when watching this talk today. I hope you will learn a few things. And you can invest time, and maybe if you're at school, then this is a big field, right? But if all students, all engineering students, all developers in the world learned machine learning, it wouldn't be enough to fill the needs. Okay, that's not enough. And some people don't have the time, or are not interested in doing that. And so if you have technical skills, if you are a developer, you can actually, and that will be the first part of this presentation, you can actually use pre-trained models. These pre-trained models are ready to use. They have been trained on big amounts of the very large amounts of samples, and they are state-of-the-art models that you can use. Okay, and as you can see, there's a big gap here in between. And this is a new technique that was introduced a couple of years ago. So right when 3 years ago, let's say, was the big start. It's AutoML. And with AutoML techniques, still without any expertise, you can actually build custom models with your own data. And the goal of this presentation tonight with you, is to show you many examples so that you can know that it exists, and maybe one day you'll think about it. And if you look at this schema, this is how maybe you can work in any company. Maybe experts can focus on innovation. They can bring added value, right? But there's no point in solving a problem that has already been solved. And when that's the case, you can reuse these solutions, and they will most of the time bring you better results, better quality than what you could do by yourself. Okay. And this is how you can divide the work in a company. Experts can focus on innovation, and maybe you can focus or you can deploy solutions on problems that are more circumcised. Okay. So let's move on. I have a lot to show today. So I'll start with the machine learning APIs. So models that you can use right away. If you remember my clumsy definition of the beginning, we have data. This data can be text, images, videos, or even speech. And so those are the Google Cloud products dealing that are hosting sometimes many different machine learning models for just one product. And from that, we extract information. And that's what I'm going to show you. And sometimes the information you want to extract is actually your input that has been transcribed in some other output. Okay. So I love to start with the Vision API. That was not the first field, but it's for personal reasons. So in the 90s, 30 years ago, I was learning computer science. And at the time, we were already trying to understand what was in a picture. And at the time, what we could do was using convolution filters. And from that, so it detects the edges, the difference of contrast in pictures. And from that, maybe we can guess that there could be a flower here, right, or a pot here, or what is that, a window or a door? So that's how we were doing that in the past, detecting edges and trying to understand. But it was very frustrating because as soon as we would use new pictures, it was just algorithms, right? And when we used new pictures, the algorithms just failed. The results were really not up to it. And that's what machine learning is solving. Machine learning is doing that somehow. The neural network, maybe the first layers are able, they are doing a convolution layer, filter, sorry, and they are able to detect edges, but they are doing so much more. They are maybe detecting the textures, the color, using the colors, or and using sometimes something that we are not even aware of or we didn't think about. And so if you give a picture to the Vision API, the Vision model, it will first be able to describe it to you. So you can get labels. So this picture is about nature, flower, garden, and so on. That's correct. Here, this is the JSON stream. As just an example, it's available in different forms. But here, this is the JSON stream that you can use if you do a web request. Okay. Nature with the confidence level at 95%. But more precisely, it's also able to do some image matchmaking. Okay, so here, this is the same picture that I got from the web, but I really changed it. I flipped it, zoomed in, cropped the picture, and applied the color filter. So there's nothing in common with the original picture, and yet the Vision model is able to make a match, and tells me here that most probably, or maybe not most probably, but likely at 61%, this picture was taken at Hobbiton in New Zealand. And that's correct. This is actually where the Lords of the Rings movies were shot, in New Zealand. And so here I get the GPS location. But what happened under the hood is that actually this picture is similar to the one I used it because it's a flip with all pixels changed, but it looks similar. Of course, by default, doesn't use it. There could be a GPS location in the image metadata, but by default doesn't use them. You can ask for it if you want more precise results, maybe. Okay. Still more precisely, I'm pretty sure you've seen that it's able to, a vision model can give you the location of the objects in a picture. And so here I get the bounding boxes of people, of the persons here, even the small one here in the background. I even get the location of the pants and the tops, okay? And here even the ceiling lamp. And this is how I can use these results. More precisely, faces can be detected too. And so here it's a 3D rendition. So it's not a human face, but it looks like a human face, and it does work. I get the face features here, the position of the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and everything. Even the bounding box if I want to do a close-up of this. And also a vision model can do image classification. So can say, okay, this image could be classified with this other image. And if you classify images with emotions, then this is how you can maybe detect some emotions. And here we can get generic emotions. So here it tells me that likely this face is angry, and that's Gollum. Gollum is always angry, right? So that's correct. And I can get many other different features like the position of the head in 3D, some features about the image itself. Is it blurred, or does the face have a hat on it? So here Gollum is bald, so no hat for sure, no headwear, okay, and more. Another field that has been totally solved by machine learning, and it was purely algorithmic before, OCR, optical character recognition, text detection. And I can say with high confidence that this OCR is a solved problem thanks to machine learning. Here, this is a screenshot. So of some text in a picture, and what the OCR tells me is I get the different levels of text, so blocks, sentences, words, and even symbols, and this is perfect. So it's even a bit boring. Let's say now it's a solved problem. So I always try to see the limits of the models, and so here I applied a perspective effect on this picture, and what I get is actually almost the same result. So still working greatly. The only difference is that the double quotes here are just becoming one single quote, but all the text is perfectly correct. So another problem that is now being almost fully solved, but greatly solved by machine learning, it's handwriting detection. And so here, this is a sheet of paper with Tolkien's handwriting. We can read it. We must read it maybe a bit slowly because it's not that obvious, but we can read it. And so can the Vision API. And so I was amazed to try that, and it does work. So here I get the two blocks, the two lines here, the different sentences, and it only makes one important mistake here. It's that I don't get 11 kings because there's a ligature maybe here with the E and the L. I get even kings. But what I can tell you is that a few months ago, it was making two mistakes. It was making a different mistakes. Shadows had a V. And so another magic with machine learning is that models keep training and models keep improving with time. You can bring them with more samples and they learn even more, or you can even give them counter examples and they will learn not to do the same mistake again. And so I can tell you, because I've been trying this example for 2 years, and let's say every 6 months, the result improved. So maybe next time I try in 6 months, I tried two weeks ago, this one. Maybe in 6 months, it won't make this mistake anymore. Really, it feels magic. And this is a very hard problem. And I've tried this with my own handwriting, and it works too. Okay. And lastly, also, if you remember, it was able to detect that picture was taken in New Zealand. So here, to try web entity detection, I used a unique picture that I had only seen once in a Spanish newspaper. So this is a picture of Tolkien. And what the Vision API tells me is that probably this picture is about Tolkien. So how did it work? It actually did a match with an existing picture. But once again, I changed the picture. I zoomed in the picture, I cropped it, and I applied a color filter. So I changed all the colors. So you can see it's not really and so it's a different picture, even though it's similar. And here it's able to tell me that most probably this picture, if I just wanted to do a best guess, that this picture is about Tolkien, and that's correct. And what I have here is that, yeah, another thing that surprised me here, I have a unique identifier in the entity ID. So this identifier uniquely identifies Tolkien. And where does it come from? Actually, as you know, Google has been browsing the web constantly for 20 years. And to provide you with the best search results, our teams, they have to understand what's in a web page. And for 20 years, they've been building a knowledge graph. So it's huge. It's also available as an API. It's like a big database where you can know the relationship between virtually any existing entity or virtual entity, anything that you can find on the web. And here, this is how Tolkien is identified in the knowledge graph database. Okay. And that's pretty cool for a developer because you don't want to deal with text. Maybe here, this is one way to write J.R.R. Tolkien. Here, another one. If he had a pseudonym, then there are different ways to write text or to identify entities. And here I have a unique ID for that. Here, it is actually telling me that this picture has a partial matching, and that's actually the original image that I used, but it's a different one. And here I have a list of visually similar images of people in a forest, or a woman or a man against a tree. Okay, so it can be useful to do some search on pictures. Okay, let me go on. So I told you it's an API. You can do a web request or an RPC, so a REST request or an RPC request, and you'll get results in JSON or in a protobuf. So that's a Google optimized format. But we do provide open source client libraries. So I'm pretty sure you'll find one of your favorite languages here. In my case, I've been focusing on Python for a couple of years. So I will show you mostly Python examples. And it's always, so it's you can see that as a wrapper around the API, a nice way to use it right away in your existing application or on a new application that you'd build. It's always the same principle. You have the package. So here it's Google Cloud Vision for Python. You create a client. You provide the content. So here it's an image. You can specify the URI of this image, and you call the feature you're interested in. Here, for instance, face detection. And then almost immediately you have the results. We'll do a demo later on this that I've used, and we'll do a live demo altogether. Okay? And here you can actually know where the faces are, whether some people are surprised or angry or sad or joyful. Okay? So we'll do the demo a bit later in the AutoML part. Now let's extrapolate. I'll go quickly, a bit more quickly on this one. The vision, the video, part, the video intelligence API. So this is like an image, but with an additional dimension time, and you can extrapolate, right, what you've seen before, but you can do that in time. So it means you can detect automatically sequences, and within these sequences, you can maybe detect objects, but you can also track them. Maybe it's easier for you to understand, and I'm going to show you this great demo that has been just released by my teammate Zach, who lives in London. And so here, once you've analyzed the video, you have, for instance, a JSON stream. And so this video has been fully analyzed. And as you can see, the features here, all the features, you can do label detection. So you can know what has been detected where in the video. You can do shot detection. So here you have the position of all the different sequences, you see. And you know that here it's 4 seconds, 2 seconds, and so on. And you can do object tracking. So maybe this is what you've seen, and that's the most impressive one. So you know that there's a bridge at the beginning, there's a bridge here, okay? And you have the location of the bridge, and you can track it. If you have two different objects or a few different objects, you can track them. And the latest features are person detection. And so, for instance, there are 79 persons detected here. You see how they can be detected. And once again, we can detect faces, or we can know the skeleton of the different people. Okay, you see the different skeletons. If you want to do a close-up and detect faces, here are the faces that have been detected in this video. And with the features that you've seen in the video, in the Vision API before, you can do logo recognition. So here, there's a YouTube logo. Okay, that's correct here. You see, it's pretty small, but it has been detected, and so on and so on. You can extract the speech into text, and we'll see that a bit later, but it does it automatically from the video. You can extract the text, of course. The OCR is also working on videos, and here you can know that, I don't know, there's a lot of the bank of. Okay, you see the bank of here has been analyzed. It has actually two different fonts, but it was detected as one single line, which is totally correct. I'll give. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I will give you a link at the end of this presentation with all the different pointers. So don't worry. You will, if you want to try it, I will give you everything. Did I forget something? Text detection, and yes, and if you want to know whether you should classify some videos because there's some explicit content, like people nude or worse, then you can use this feature. Okay. So here, this is actually a code lab. I'll give you the link at the end that I've written that is exploring all the different features and how you can call them in Python. Just these few lines let you track all the objects in a video. Okay. And on my GitHub also, you can find in 300 lines of code how I can create GIF animations, right? Just from the video automatically. And here, this is a caterpillar. This is an insect that has been detected by the Video Intelligence API. Okay. Then the big field that was first NLP, natural language processing, because first we dealt with text, right? Everyone, even researchers, experts, or developers, we all started to work on text on computers. And so the natural language API is another machine learning model that is bringing us natural language processing to the next level, because it's a field that has been worked on for decades by many researchers. And machine learning, once again, allows us to do a lot more with more precision and so on. So the first thing that the natural language model can do is give you an analysis of the syntax of the sentences. Sorry. So first of all, if I give this sentence, sorry, I'm mixing words. Maybe I'm going too fast. So if I give this sentence to the natural language model, first of all, it tells me that it's English. Okay, no big deal. But then it's able to analyze it very precisely and give me the nature, the genders of all the different items. And even I can get the punctuation and the lemmas. The lemma, so it's the canonical form of verbs and nouns. It's very useful if you want to go to this level. At the beginning of my career, I was working in educational solutions, and I worked with specialized companies on this, and they were totally not able to do that. They had to work with teams of linguists, and it was on a case-by-case basis. It's a very hard problem, and now it's been solved. And I'm pretty sure you've used assistants. This is at the core, the heart of all assistants. When you are writing or speaking, we want to understand what you're speaking about, and NL analysis is there, and it's the magic that is making it work. And so, like in pictures, the NL model is able to do to detect entities. And so, in the same sentence, I have 3 different groups. In red are persons. Tolkien is a person. A writer is a person, a poet, and so on. A university professor is a person. An author is a person. So that's great results. And another thing, when I tried that surprised me a lot, is that if you remember, when we had Tolkien in a picture before, here, this is the exact same identifier for Tolkien in text and as before Tolkien in a picture. So it means I can deal with the same entities in text, in pictures, and in videos. Pretty powerful. And if you want to remember what's a web entity, what is an entity, it's someone or something famous, and very often they will have a Wikipedia page. And so this is why when you are using these APIs, very often you will have a link to the Wikipedia page that is related to it. British here is mapped to the United Kingdom, is mapped as a location. That's correct. And the 3 books at the end are each of them are mapped as a work of art, and that's perfect too. Okay. And finally, you can ask for content classification. And that's very useful for any company who has legacy documents, archives. Most of the time, they have scanned them to keep them in a digital form, right? But how can they exploit them? How can they sort them out, and so on? And content classification with NLP is one great way to do it. And so if I give this sentence, but I forgot to tell you, it works at different text levels, right? You can give full articles to the API, and you have results at the full article level, at the paragraph level, the sentence level, or even entity levels, if you want to have a very granular way of detecting stuff. Okay, and so here, this sentence, but it would work on an article. The NL API tells me that it should be classified under books and literature at 97%. And that is really perfect. It's exactly what I would say myself. Okay. One last thing, if you remember, on faces, the Vision API is able to detect emotions. And so here on text, it's the NL API is able to detect sentiments. Are we speaking positively or negatively at the different levels? Is this full article positive? Is this paragraph negative? Is this entity being spoken of positively or not? And so to try that out, I took 2 different reviews of The Hobbit, one from the New York Times from last centuries, actually, when the book was released, and a more recent one from a book social network. And Pauline here hated The Hobbit. And the results that I get are scores, and at the sentence level are scores between -1 and +1. This is what you see, the different sentences. And these sentences do come from Pauline, who really wrote a pretty negative review. These positive sentences come from the New York Times review. And I didn't show you, but there are many neutral sentences, because most of the time we speak neutrally about things, right? We are more measured. And so those are the results that you get between -0.4 and +0.4, okay? And some companies are using that to know how well they're doing. How are people speaking about their company? How are people speaking about their products? They can analyze their own reviews. They can analyze tweets, comments on social networks, and some companies are really using that to know the trends, to detect issues. Sometimes they can detect, oh wow, there's something negative going on there, and so on and so on. Okay. I even know one company who has been using that for a few years, and what they did is that they changed their customer service process, and what they do is that they treat negative emails in priority. And that's pretty smart if you think about it, because they are dealing with problems as soon as possible. And if they get a very positive email in the morning, maybe it can wait a few hours to thank the customer, but maybe they should, and that's what they are doing, maybe they should focus on issues first to solve problems as fast as possible and maximize the overall customer satisfaction. Okay? So here is an example of how you can analyze sentiments. Just these few lines are enough, and you have the results in a almost real time. Okay. Next, still about text, and I'll go fast here again because I have never met anyone who never used Google Translate. So this is Google Translate being available as an API. What I can share with you, and because that was 5 years ago, so in 2016, I was not working at Google, but I was already and still using Google Translate as a simple user. So in my previous job, I had a lot of technical documentation in Chinese or Japanese, not always in English. And I was trying to translate these documents into English or into French with Google Translate. And it was working okay in 2016. And suddenly, one day, the results were vastly superior. The quality was there. You could. I was wondering at the time whether there were humans suddenly translating behind Google Translate, and what I didn't know at the time, there was some public communications, but what happened 5 years ago is that the Google Translate teams switched from a statistical model to a machine learning model. And this is where the big gap in quality came, a big quality jump, and I'm pretty sure you could appreciate that. It's available in many, many different languages, and it's available as an API. It works on text, HTML, even CSV. And what I can tell you, because I've read public and also internal documents, is that for the last 5 years, the quality was great, but the quality just kept improving. And as I told you before, it's the same principle. If you provide the model with more samples, then it improves. It just keeps improving. And that's what has been occurring with the translation models behind the scene for 5 years with more languages. Same, I thought people were feeding it. Yeah. So yeah, 5 years ago, I was really amazed, and there are articles about it, and you can use that. And so it's still not the professional. You can tell the difference between a professional translator and the translation model, but it is getting closer and closer, and the results that you have are very, very good. For instance, Airbnb, they are using this API. They are virtually translating everything, because most of their users, when someone is renting and someone is a guest and someone is a host, most of the time they don't speak the same language because they are coming from different parts of the world. And so thanks to this API, they are translating almost everything, and users can understand each other thanks to that. Here, there are more comments than code. Just 2 lines. You create a client and you call translate, and that's it. You have your translation. Okay. Now, let's move on to speech, and both ways, speech to text and text to speech. And this is also a field that I tried to use in the past, and that failed miserably also. And here again, it's solved by machine learning. And so the speech-to-text API is actually the first engine that is used by any assistant. If you have a smartphone with Android and with the Google Assistant on it, if you have an iPhone or whichever smartphone, almost all of them have an embedded assistant right now. Maybe you have a device at home, the Google Home or any other assistant hardware. You can speak to them. And what happens when you speak to them is, maybe you didn't realize, but your speech is transformed into text. And it has been a very hard problem in the past. I worked with companies, dedicated companies, doing only that. What they were trying to do was to cut the different words and detect the different phonemes in the sentences. And it had very severe limitations. It worked, but like the statistical model for the translation, it worked, but it didn't work for real. And here with machine learning, now it really works and it's natural. And another magic that comes from that is, if you think about it, all the machine learning models are trained with actual samples from real life. And in real life, there is noise, right? When we are speaking on the phone, where I'm speaking to you, I have a good gear, but maybe there's some ambient noise. And so if we record any conversation, you will have noise in the audio signal. And as machine learning models learn from that, they happen to become robust to noise. Okay, so I'm getting very quickly here, but what happens is that you can select some profiles, say, okay, this is a conversation that happened on phones. You can optimize the different settings, but it does work, and it's even doing more. You can ask to get the punctuation. This is something that companies, specialized companies, were totally unable to do. Because somehow there's some natural language processing that has been learned when transcribing speech into text. And another feature also, like for the videos before, if you're able to understand what's in a speech, you can index it. And so this is one option. When you use the speech-to-text model, you can ask to get the timestamps of all the different words. And so, if you have the timestamps, then it means you can do a search and then go straight to the sentence or the word that you're interested in. Okay. Here, this is another code lab that I've written. I recorded myself, so it's online. You'll have the link. It's on the Code Labs platform. I recorded myself pronouncing the beginning of a famous French poetry. Okay, Maître Corbeau sur un arbre perché tenait en son bec un fromage, and so on. I wanted to try. So here's how with only these few lines, you can actually do the transcription. So this is the location of my file, my recording. Now it's not needed anymore, but if you want to go faster, you can already say, okay, I know that this is a French audio file. Here I'm asking for automated punctuation. And so here I'm getting the uppercase, the dots at the end, and so on. And here with that, I can get the different timestamps of every word. Okay, so this is the first part of an assistant. Transcribe text into text, speech into text. And then the text is analyzed, of course. But then you need to sometimes have an answer, right? Better than text. And then this is where the text-to-speech model comes into play. So it's a big API that has been developed by DeepMind. So it's the last chain. And this is why we can have so much natural models and interactions. So DeepMind, you know them. They have beaten the world champion for the Go game. They have beaten 2 years ago gamers at StarCraft. A few weeks ago, they have started to beat gamers at foot. No, they have 2 weeks ago they have been able to learn to play football from scratch with 3D models and so on. And here the challenge that they did is that they managed to generate a very natural voice, not working on phonemes or whatever like dedicated companies would do, but from scratch, from actual samples. And better than that, they're doing better than real time, because in 1 second, you can generate 20 seconds of speech with a very natural WaveNet voice. So I'll move on. I'll just show you this example. Let me try to share my audio, and I'm going to open Google search. Okay, let's try something different this time. Okay, I'm going to do, I am on the French search site. Okay, I'm going to speak French, so asking a question in French, but with a British accent. Okay, or what I think is a British accent. And you'll see the result live, depending on the bandwidth. But I will get results in real time. Okay, let's try that. Quelle est la température à Paris?
Il fait actuellement 30 degrés à Paris.
So there was some sync issue at the beginning, but what you should have heard is me speaking French, but with a very thick British accent. And in real time, it was able to give me some predictions. So sometimes they were wrong, but at the end, they're correct. And I tried many different ways around speaking German with a French accent. If I tried also to speak French, to speak English with a French accent, it works greatly also. And I hope you could hear the result, but the WaveNet voice answered me and gave me the result, the temperature in Paris. And it's pretty hot right now in Paris. Okay, maybe you didn't realize, but you can do searches with your own voice. And that's what you do anyway when you speak to any assistant. Okay. So here's another code lab that I've written. You'll see that by yourself, but these few lines are enough to generate WAV files with different voices. So you've seen most of what you can do with existing machine learning models, okay? But in some cases, it will not work for your maybe business needs, okay? And this is where AutoML can be useful. With AutoML, you are going to be able to build your own machine learning models derived from what you've seen before, but customized to your own needs. So let me use this example as an illustration. So if I give these two pictures to the Vision API that we've seen before, I'm going to get almost the same results, because basically those are clouds in a sky. And a machine learning model will give you generic results, or results that it has been trained on to make the predictions that were expected. But if I want to do a weather forecasting application that will predict the weather from the shape of the clouds. Here, if I have a cirrus, maybe the weather will be nice for the next hours. Here with the altocumulus, maybe it could get bad. Okay, then I'm stuck with the Vision API because I don't have this level of precision. But this is actually an image classification problem. And with AutoML Vision, you can solve it, or you can solve different problems with AutoML. And the principle is always the same. You need to work a little bit more. You need to provide your own training data. You need to build a data set, actual samples, okay? And then everything else is automated. There are many different options. You can actually deploy your model as an API once the training is over. Or you can just do batch predictions, depends on your use case. And for images and for videos, you can also make an edge training. And edge training is a lighter model that you'll be able to export. And you can export it to get it to run in a mobile application with the TensorFlow Lite model. You can export it as a TensorFlow safe model and run it in a container anywhere, so even offline. For instance, on a Raspberry Pi, just embed a container and you can make predictions anywhere. I would have used that on production lines in my previous life. And one thing that amazed me is that you can also export, for instance, an object detection model as a TensorFlow JS model. And what it means is that you can actually, in a web page, you can make live predictions in a web page. You just need to, in JavaScript, you import your model you import TensorFlow, JS, AutoML, and then it just works. I'll show you an example. And so in our use case, if we want to detect cloud shapes, we need pictures and we need to label them. We don't need thousands or worse, millions of pictures, just a few hundreds, ideally 1,000 per each, per label, but with a couple of hundreds, it works. And so in this data set, we have 5 labels, okay? And then you launch the training. It's generally an iterative process. Here, this is a quick training that I did just to test the data set that was made by Sarah, a colleague of mine living in New York. And I noticed a few mistakes in the data set. And so I fixed the mistakes. There were some wrong labels. And then I launched a better training. So of course, here, I don't have these mistakes, so the training is better, but also I increased the training budget. And here, with just a few hundreds of features, I have already a very good model that is over 90% of accuracy. Okay. One tool to know how well your model is doing is the confusion matrix, especially for everything that is based on predictions. Here, my model is doing pretty well. You see here, 94% to detect cumuluses, 96 for cumulonimbus, 92 for cirruses. The altostratus 83, it's okay. But the altocumulus is bad. It's almost 50% chance, so it doesn't work. And what happens is that you go back to your data set with the altocumulus. So first, I have a lot less samples. And worse, they all look the same. They are very, very similar because some of them were extracted from a video. And so maybe that building data set will become an art. Like you can become an artist and get a feeling of how well you should, how to build a data set nicely. And so what the rule of thumbs you can keep in mind is that a data set should be balanced, right? Here I should maybe provide more pictures of the altocumulus and different pictures, right? And even better, I should remove the pictures that are very similar because they don't bring anything to my model. And maybe worse, they will learn my model. They will teach my model to specialize on detecting these similar pictures, okay? So a data set has to be balanced, and also a data set has to be unbiased. So you have to be careful about bias, because if there's bias, so somehow you have introduced something that is not natural, or maybe you've introduced the solution. You've heard about machine learning models that got racist just by speaking with people on the web. So here the richness or the quality of your model will depend on the quality of your data set. Okay. And once the training is there, you can deploy it and have as an API and use the API in real time, or you can do some batch processing. So here I deployed my model. I uploaded a picture that is not part of my data set. And here, so it's a picture coming from my smartphone that I took in Poland. And here it tells me that there's a cumulus at 97%. So the image is classified as having a cumulus inside it. Okay, and it works. That's the right result. So here's a summary of AutoML techniques. It works, remember my definition, it works on images, videos, on text, and even structured data. So here, this is purely machine learning. This is regressions, but it's able to do magic again. If you have a structured data, so tables, for instance, CSVs or databases, you can do predictions. If I had that a few years ago, I would have used that. Okay, so here are all the features that you can do with AutoML. They are available. Oh, I lost my. Okay, they are available in Vertex AI. All of them except the translation. Can you bring back the? Yeah. So here maybe it's easier to understand. So for instance, you can do your own video object tracking with AutoML Video Intelligence or with Vertex AI. It's just a matter of providing, building the data set, providing the samples, okay? So now it's demo time. I want to know, we'll spend two minutes. I want to know if you're having fun or if you're sleepy or whatever. Okay, so I've built my own AutoML vision model of people with the tongue out, people sleeping, and people yawning. So this is the architecture. And let's move to the demo part. I'm going to give you the link in in YouTube. So here, remember, there's a 15 seconds delay about. Okay, sorry. Let me give you the URL again. Okay, so this in YouTube, this is the demo. Okay, there's no link, but if you copy paste it. But anyway, let's move to this part. You can either use the URL that I gave in the YouTube chat, or you can use this QR code, or just type the URL bit.ly/ml Doha. Okay. It will ask you for your authorization to use the webcam. You can do that from your phone or from your laptop. And then you can send me a selfie. Okay. And when the selfie is going to land in the Google Cloud Storage bucket, it will trigger automatically a Cloud function. This Cloud function is going to call the Vision API to make sure that there's a face. If you take a picture of your foot, it won't work. Okay. But if there are faces, then it will take the face with the largest number of pixels. It will crop it automatically. I will do some processing, and I will use my AutoML vision model to try to classify the pictures. Remember, I'm not an expert. I just used sample images to build this dataset. And so let me do the demo in real time. I hope you could join the demo. Let me do the demo with you. So here, this is my my laptop webcam, and here this is my AutoML vision model with the 3 different image classes that I'm able to detect. So feel free to stick out your tongue to me to yawn or to sleep, just to try all different cases, and you can try several times. Okay. So I'll do that. And you'll understand, you'll see the result on your smartphone. Okay. So here I do have the tongue out, and with a high confidence, and I'm using the Qatar flag colors normally. And here, as I know where the nose is, the mouth is, and I have the orientation of the eyes, I'm able to put a mustache to everyone. So this is what you should see. Let's try another one. Okay, yawning. So I use pictures of people with the hand in front of their mouth, or just the mouth wide open, and so it does work. But I'm kind of cheating, right? Because in my dataset there are pictures of myself. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let's see what we have. So here you do have your tongue out. It worked. Here, the 2 of us, we are yawning. Nobody's sleeping. Okay. And so you can keep, I will leave the demo until the end of the day. You can keep trying this at home. Nobody else is trying to sleep. Remember, there's a delay, so maybe you'll try a bit later. And here, if you remember, it's able to detect objects. And so here we have people with glasses. Okay. So let me just show you quickly the code. This is the code of my Cloud function. Here, the first feature is safe search detection. I want to make sure that there's no zombie, no violent picture, right? If there was a zombie, it would be detected. The image would be blurred. Face detection is to know whether there are faces in the images. And object localization, this is how I can detect pictures, glasses, but I could detect tops, ties, scarves, and so on and so on. Okay. So you see just a few lines. I love that, not because I'm lazy, but because less lines means, oh, there's a big delay apparently on less lines means less bugs. Okay. So I'll go faster, but because apparently I'm way over time. Okay, I understand why there's so. It's a much bigger delay that I thought. Okay, so I'll leave that to you in the slides at the end. I will just maybe mention what's under the hood. Okay, so something specific to Google Cloud is what we call internally meta learning. It's actually a research paper called Neural Architecture Search, NAACE, if you would like to know more about it. And what happens is that before launching an AutoML training, we actually explore the best architecture for your model. And this is why we do have dedicated hardware like TPUs, tensor processing units. We're using GPUs and TPUs in our data centers. And here it's consuming a lot of computing power. So AutoML works with transfer learning. So this is something known by all experts. And so here you can think about this like it is the vision model, for instance. When you bring new pictures of different clouds, you are building additional layers here that are called hidden layers. And this is how you derive this existing model with this larger neural network. And this is what AutoML is doing partly. That's part of the magic. Another thing also, and this is why it's working so great and the results are fast and accurate, it's hyperparameter tuning. We do have an algorithm for that, also available as an API. So the algorithm is called Vizier. If you're an expert and you want to find optima, then you can use the Vizier API. Basically, so in the past, it was all handmade and experts would find some optima there. But the real optima on these curves, on this curve is here. And Vizier is able to find it now, okay? And it has been tried on major data set from the last 10 years. And Vizier and AutoML, they are beating all experts on all known data sets, okay? All reference data sets. Here's an example of a project I'm working on. It's finished actually, but I will write an article about it and we'll share the code on my GitHub. So here, if you remember, I worked on ebook devices before. So what I did, it didn't exist. I did a detector for components. So here I provided pictures, 100 pictures of electronic boards. On each board, I gave the bounding box of the components, so the ICs, the integrated circuits. Here, this is my actually, this is my desk here. So I have this nice webcam that is able to do a quick autofocus. And now I can, let me show you, I can put any electronic board below it. So here it's doing the autofocus. This is my electronic board. And here, this is running in a web page. I didn't think it would work. So I'm recording this on my web page, and it's still able to do between 4 and 5 predictions per second. And it does detect, so it's better in because I didn't provide rotated images, but you see it does detect all the components that and I didn't use this picture in my data set to make sure. And so that's magic. I'm not an expert. I don't know how to build a neural network to do that, but AutoML Vision let me do it. Okay. So now let's move on. I think I'm running out of time. So if you want to do more machine learning, it could take days, whole conferences. There are many ways. But think also that there are some platforms for that and some vertical platforms. So for instance, Vertex AI is made for experts, but also for developers. Vertex AI has the AutoML features also. They are available as individual product, but also under Vertex AI, and it's a unified platform. Document AI, I'm also working on it, is able to analyze your own documents. So of course, it uses the OCR, the great machine learning OCR, able to detect printed text, handwriting, but it's also able to detect tables, forms, and with additional machine learning model is able to analyze invoices, receipts, any government forms, and so on and so on. It's a big platform. It has been announced a few months ago. It's very pretty new, it's already working like magic. Another platform that you may know, Dialogflow. If you want to build your own chatbot, it's using the speech to text, the natural language, and the text to speech API, and it allows you to build a chatbot that's able to speak with your own users. Another one is the call center AI, and so on and so on. Okay. Also, I find this slide a bit funny because it was made 3 years ago. There were many different frameworks, and 3 years ago, TensorFlow was already the favorite machine learning repo on GitHub. It just kept improving. And if you want to go deep in machine learning today, you cannot go wrong if you choose one of these two frameworks, TensorFlow and or PyTorch. You can use both, and they're very, very similar now. Maybe TensorFlow is larger in scope. So TensorFlow was pushed by Google, mainly Google, and PyTorch, Facebook, I think. But here's the result 3 years later. Okay, so it's time to wrap up. If I want to summarize, this is what we've seen. What is the time to use the machine learning APIs? Just hours. The demo that I did with the face detection took me 2 hours to try it, and 1 afternoon to have a prototype. With AutoML, it took me 2 days for the image classification to know whether you're sticking your tongue out. 2 days, and also for the electronic board detection. So think in terms of days. Of course, if you want to become an expert, you will have to invest more time. The difficulty for the API is absolutely no difficulty, zero difficulty. It's just an API that you can call. With AutoML, the difficulty is just the data set, because this is your own data, and the quality of your data set will be the quality of your AutoML model, because everything else is state of the art. That's the best that is available as of today, the different AutoML products. Okay. Here are the resources. You will have them. So Code Labs. Here, those are tutorials that you can find on my Medium or GitHub. Here, this is an automated video summary that I did in only 300 lines of code with the Video Intelligence API. Okay. Here, this is a comic book. It's online in 2 parts that has been done by Google AI, and I read it from time to time. You'll have the link at the end. It's really great if you want to refresh your memories or just learn some vocabulary, some principles. It's a lot more detailed than what I did today. And here is the final link. So my presentation with all pointers, I tried to summarize that here. Sorry. Again. So my presentation. Okay. Okay, and here is the link on the YouTube chat. So I don't know if my YouTube. Let me try my. I am seeing a big delay on my YouTube stream. So I'm refreshing it. Maybe it's not that bad. Yeah. Okay. We're back maybe to the 15 seconds. So that's it for me for today. I wanted to bring you some inspiration. So I hope you learn a few things. Maybe it gave you some ideas. That's even better. Please let me know somehow, whatever, on Twitter. Get in touch with me. On these pointers, you will find everything, the slides, a feedback form if you want to get in touch with me 2 months later. All the pointers to the products, to the Code Labs, and to my tutorials and more. Okay. Thanks a lot for having me today. It was a pleasure. I hope you are all doing well and greatly, and see you maybe soon in the future, hopefully.
Thanks a lot, Laurent. I think this was like one of those sessions where you covered almost everything that is there in terms of AutoML, or when we are talking about machine learning APIs. So this was, I would probably say that people can actually use this like a reference video to actually come back and look at all the different capabilities that ML has. So thanks a lot. And I was, more than all the demo, I was actually impressed with your speech in French with a British accent. So
yeah, I missed the beginning, but it does actually work. You can try it. Oh yeah, I forgot. In my link, there's a list of online demos. You can try the Vision API, the Video Intelligence API. Google Translate, of course, is there, but the natural language and the speech to text also. You can try everything.
Definitely. And I think the community as well. So we've seen some of the comments as well. So they're very grateful. Wow, amazing. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Laurent. Thank you for an amazing session, and looking forward to having you more on our community as well in the future. So once again, thank you on behalf of the entire community.
Have fun. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. So with that, we are going into our very next session. So I hope you all enjoyed Laurent's session, and this was actually a very in-depth overview of machine learning APIs and AutoML and the Vertex AI. So these are some of the ways where you can actually start building applications using machine learning. So with that, what I would do next is we have our next speaker, who is again a Google developer group organizer. She's also a women tech maker. She's Rachael. So I will bring Rachael up on the screen. Hi, Rachael. So Rachael, you're on mute. So while we bring Rachael onto the live stream, let's actually go ahead with an intro. Hi, Rachael, can you hear us?
Yes, Sachin, I can hear you now.
Perfect. So your audio is coming through as well. So folks, I hope you enjoyed all the sessions today. And if you'd like to see some of those things in action, we have Rachael actually taking you through AutoML Vision as well. So make sure that you tune in for this amazing session. And along with that, just a quick reminder, make sure that you actually go ahead and register the link. So I will paste the link again in terms of the Google Cloud. So if you want to win one of the Chromebooks today, and for people who have just joined us a bit later, yes, you have an amazing chance to win a Chromebook. And we had a session with Nasser. So what you need to do is make sure you go to this link, which I'm gonna paste in the comment section right now, or the chat. So go to the link, make sure you sign up for that. And once you finish the Google Cloud Onboard program, you'll be one among the 25 who would receive a Chromebook. So thank you all so far for making this event such an amazing and engaging one. So with that being said, Rachael, I'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Sachin. So hello, everyone. My name is Rachael, and I'm a researcher and a doctoral student. I'm also one of the leads of Google Developer Groups in Doha. And today I'm going to talk to you about AutoML Vision. So Laurent actually made it very easy for me because he was talking to us about what machine learning models for images look like and things like that. But today what I'm going to specifically talk about is how you can use AutoML Vision basically without any code. So you can code your own models, but there is the possibility for you to run your own models without using absolutely any code. So let's just get started. It's going to be a very fun and quick session. So let's get started. So throughout the course of this presentation, I'm going to be talking to you about what AutoML Vision is, when should you be using AutoML, because as you saw in the previous session, Laurent was also talking about what the Vision API is. So basically, why would you use AutoML when you have the Vision API? What is the difference? And then how can you prepare the data for AutoML Vision? And then there will be a short demo, and it's going to be a really fun data set, I promise you. And finally, I'll also give you some resources. So basically, at the end of this session, once you've learned what to do, I'm sure you can just go sit in the comfort of your home and just start doing this tutorial all by yourself. It's that easy. You have free credits. So just stick to the end of the session to know what are the things you can avail. So let's get started. When you actually Google what AutoML vision is, this is basically the sort of code that, that jumps up at you. So we already know that it is a machine learning model that you can train, especially for images. But the more fun part over here is that you get to choose your own defined labels. So with Vision API, there were other things. So they were already predefined. But over here in AutoML Vision, you have the power to actually sit down and choose what you want. So what else? So if AutoML Vision can do this, is that the only thing that AutoML Vision can do for you? Absolutely not. AutoML Vision also has the service called the Human Labeling Service. So let's take, for example, you have about 1,000 images, and maybe you have to go through each one of these images and label them. Maybe you are interested in finding out if there is a dog in this particular photo, or maybe you're wondering about what breed of dog it is. So let's say if you have about 1,000 images, are you going to sit down and manually do the labeling for all 1,000? It sounds pretty impossible, right? So what you can do instead is you can avail the service called the Human Labeling Service. And to avail the service, you need to satisfy at least 2 requirements. So the first one is that you should have at least 100 unlabeled images that you can submit. And these images should fall between having 2 to 20 labels maximum. So if you're wondering how can you just go ahead and sort of demo this or trial this, don't worry, you have about 40 free node hours. So that just basically means about 40 hours worth of unlabeled images you can submit to this once you start with the demo. And after that, of course, it's going to be paid. It's about $3.15 per hour. But if you're really into it, I think it's worth the price. So the next thing is about what are the 3 functions of AutoML. So what are the 3 scenarios in which you would actually apply AutoML? So the first thing is something called the single label classification. So for example, for the image on the right, you can see that there are 3 animals, right? So maybe you want to classify this particular image or by just giving it 1 label. So in this case, it could be classified as either a dog or a cat or a mouse. Now, we have no idea what this one is going to be classified under, but maybe you can think that because the dog basically uses the most proportion in this particular image, maybe your model will actually find out that will actually classify this as a dog. But it does not make sense, right? Because maybe you are interested with finding out all of the objects in this particular image. In that case, you can go on for your multi-label classification, where you actually can, where your model can actually label this as both a dog, a cat, as well as a mouse. So that would be your multi-label classification. And finally, with object detection. So with object detection, it just goes one step further and actually identifies all the objects, as well as gives you like a bounding box around this object, so you know exactly where this particular object is within the image. So that's sort of cool. Now let's go back. Now let's go to the next thing, where we want to identify like what is the difference between AutoML Vision and the Vision API, which Laurent was actually sort of touching upon like for most of his demo. So with AutoML Vision, like I said, you have the power to choose your own defined categories or labels. So for example, for the image on the right, maybe you are interested in finding out if this particular dog is a beagle or maybe if it's a lab. So here you have the power to go into the very specifics of the labels that you can assign to this particular image. Whereas on the right, let me show you. So the video on the right is basically what the results that you would get if you ran it through the Vision API. So let's just quickly look at that. So over here, you can see that the API has correctly identified this as a dog, and the labels it's given it are dog. It can identify that there is a ball, that it is a beagle, that it's a working dog, it's a hunting dog. It can identify grass. It can also identify like how you should crop this particular image. And finally, it can also tell you if this particular image has any sort of adult content or medical content. So maybe if this is something that you're going to show to an audience, right? So if one of these tags are not something that you want to show the audience, then just because this particular label is marked, then you know you don't want to show this particular image to your audience. So that's basically one of the fundamental differences between AutoML Vision and the Vision API. So now let's move on to seeing how you can actually prep your data for AutoML. All right. So the first thing is that though it is recommended that you have about 1,000 images inside each of your labels, it's the only actual requirement is that you have about at least 10 images for each label. So for example, let's say you want to classify between cats and dogs. So you should have at least 10 images that are labeled as cats and at least 10 that are labeled as dogs. So your first step would actually be just, to collect all of these images. And let's say you have all these images. The next step would, of course, be to send it to the cloud. So with the cloud, every time you want to add something to your cloud, you need to create something called the bucket. So the bucket is nothing but you can just think like how a normal bucket would hold water. So a Google storage bucket does something similar in the sense that it is going to hold all of your data inside it. So in this case, the data that we are going to put it is actually the images. So we would add 20 images, so 10 of cats and finally 10 of dogs. So now that is done, we will add another CSV file, which is going to be basically the sort of link between your storage bucket and your AutoML API. So once this sort of link is done, then your AutoML API can actually understand, so this is where all of the data is. So if you look on the right side, you can actually see the contents of this particular CSV file. So you can see this, let's say image 11 is basically the image of a dog, and it is under your dogs folder. So basically it's within this folder. So you just give the URI of this particular image followed by the label that you've given it. So let's say you have about 10 images of dogs and then 10 images of cats. So this is basically all of the data that you need to give to AutoML to actually start. The other thing that another parameter, and if you see over here, you can see that I've actually said that this particular parameter is optional. Now I'm going to tell you why it's optional, because even if you don't add this particular parameter, AutoML is sort of capable of actually setting default parameters for itself. So in this case, the default split would be to divide the images that you have sent it. So let's say you have sent it about 10 images. So in this case, it would take 80% of that to train itself. So this is basically the images that it will study to understand what are the images that you're showing it. So out of 10 images, let's say it would take up 8 images just for training, or for just like how you learn, right? So it's going to take 8 of these images to learn by itself, and 1 for testing set and 1 for validation set. So that's 10% of 10 would be 1. So in this case, it would take 1 image to, so just imagine, so every time you learn something, you go and write an exam to understand how much you've actually understood about the subject. So in this case, you will learn, just imagine you're the machine learning model. So in this case, you will learn with 8 images, and then you will write your exam basically on the 1 image. And the validation set is something that is used by the machine learning model to sort of like optimize the hyperparameters of the model. So that's something the model is going to take care of. So these are basically the 3 steps, if you want to think of them as 3 steps. But this is basically all the things that you actually would be doing to set up and get going. So now let's move on to how you can evaluate your model. So like I said, so once you finish writing your exam, right, you need to understand your teachers are obviously going to evaluate how much of it you've understood. So similarly, we have we have about 5 evaluation measures. So these are like the standard 5 machine learning measures that you would use. So in this case, we have the model output, the threshold. So the model output and thresholds are basically levels of confidence about how confident your model is in making a particular decision. So maybe your model is 85% sure that the image that you've given it is that of a dog. And in some cases where it might be confused between the cat and the dog. So in this case, the probability of confidence is of course going to go low. Then we have something called the true positives, true negatives, false positive, and false negatives. So these are all, again, the way with which the model has learned something. And finally, we have the other 2 measures, which are the precision recall curve, which sort of understands, which sort of helps you understand how much your model has learned from the information that you have fed it. And finally, the confusion matrix. So the confusion matrix and the precision recall curve were something that Laurent actually sort of touched upon during his talk. So we will look at all of these 5 measures in sort of our demo. So I think it's just easier to explain it that way. So let's move on. So now we're ready for the demo, but that also means we're ready for our very fun and exciting data set. So today we're actually going to look up the data set of cats. So now what the cats actually does, what the cats data set actually does is that it has 10 images of each particular cat that you see over here. So this model is not meant to be representative, or I'm not trying to show you how the model is perfect. This is more of like, a let's get started kind of data set. Just think of it like the IRIS data set that everyone talks about. So over here, you have 3 different cats, 3 different breeds, basically. So we have the Bengal cat, the Savannah cat, and the American bobtail. So if I ask you as a human to just tell me which one is, the most distinct looking cat out of these 3, I'm sure you're going to point out the American bobtail, right? Because if you look at the American bobtail, the tail is like really small when you compare it with the tails of the other 2 cats. So it's a very stump-like looking tail. So it's basically the easiest one to recognize out of these 3. You might also be thinking, but Rachel, the Bengal cat, it also looks distinct in the sense that it has an orange colored coat. Well, the problem with this particular thing is that the Bengal cat can have any color of coat. So sometimes it can look orange. Sometimes it can have the same coat color as what the Savannah and the American bobtail have. So there is no really a good way of defining the differences between the Bengal and the Savannah cat. So just keep this in mind. Out of these 3, whatever is easiest for you to understand would be the American bobtail. So keep that in mind. And now let's jump into our demo. So just before we jump into the demo, I'm just going to jog your memory and let you know that the entire thing is just going to take you 2 steps. So in the first step, you're going to add all of your images and your CSV file. So remember, the CSV file is basically the link between the images that you add in your bucket and the AutoML API itself. So let me add all of that into the bucket. So once it is full now, what we're going to do is we're going to send it to the Vision AutoML API, and then it is going to classify these, or it's going to label these images as either the Bengal cat, the Savannah cat, or the American bobtail cat. All right. So now we are going to head off into the demo. So I would just like to tell you something. So the demo is actually sort of pre-recorded, and it's pre-recorded for 2 different reasons. So it's actually going to take me some time for uploading all of these images. It took me about 5 minutes maximum to upload these images, and it took me about 15 to 20 minutes to actually train my model. So that's something to keep in mind before we jump into our demo. All right. So this is basically the Google Cloud Platform. Let me just quickly show you how the home of the Google Cloud Platform looks like. So this is basically what the home page of the Google Cloud Platform is. And as you can see here, I've already created a storage bucket. And here's some billing information. And it's basically the dashboard where you can see a lot of different things. So I'm going to go ahead and go to cloud storage. So over here, you can see that I've already created my bucket. So I've done this because I did not want to waste time. It's going to take some time for me to import the images. So I've already uploaded the images, and I've also already trained my model. But I will show you how to create your own bucket because it'll be easier for you that way. So let us first look at how we can create a bucket, and then we'll come back and examine the contents of the bucket that I've already created. So let's say create bucket. So here is the name that should be globally unique. You should not be giving it a name that you think might already be there. So AutoML Vision actually sort of recommends that you use this naming convention. So you first say bucket hyphen. Now you give a unique name for your bucket. Let's say we Bengal Savannah, and American Bobtail Cats, VCM. All right, let's hope that goes through. So yes, the bucket name was unique enough, so it's accepted. The next thing to choose is where you want to store your data. So here we have three options: multi-region, dual region, and region. So this actually depends on how much you want your data to be available. So in this case, where you have very high data that needs to be available, data which has high availability requirements, then you would of course use multi-region, because the data would be replicated or it would be redundant across multiple regions. With dual regions, the data would be redundant over two regions. But in our case, we don't really want the data to be replicated. We are fine with just having one copy of the data. So we will choose region. And from here, you will choose US Central 1, Iowa. And then we'll continue. And then, of course, we'll have to choose a default storage class for the data. So this is basically dependent on how frequently you use your data. So if you use your data very frequently, then you would go for the standard option. If you use it, like say once in a year, you use the archive, and anything in middle, you will use the nearline and the cold line. So I'm going to continue. And then finally, we have information about the access controls that you want to specify. Maybe you want to give different sort of access control measures for the entire folder, or maybe for each image within the folder. So this is where you play around with it. I'm just going to stick to the default access control. And of course, if I say create, it would then create the bucket. But I'm not going to do that because I already have my bucket ready for me. All right, so let's click on bucket and see what's inside. So as you can see, I've already created 3 folders: the American Bobtail, the Bengal, and the Savannah folders. So let's just quickly look into what these folders contain. So it basically contains 10 images. So each of these folders basically contain 10 images. And I also have a cats.csv file. And let me just quickly show you the contents of that file. So over here, you can see that I have 10 images. And you can also see that each of those, so this is basically the file name of the image. And this is inside the folder American Bobtail, which is inside my bucket, the one that we created. And the class that it belongs to is American Bobtail. So I have 10 images for American Bobtail, 10 for Bengal, and 10 for Savannah. So now let's go back. So this is basically the content of the bucket. So now let's quickly go ahead and see how I can enable my AutoML vision. So for that, you will have to look for artificial intelligence. And let's keep scrolling. So here you have artificial intelligence. And under artificial intelligence, the vision API is the last one. So click on that. So the very first time that you come into the Cloud AutoML Visions page, you will be asked to enable your AutoML API. But I've already done that, and I've already created my own data set and used a training model. So I'm just quickly going go into another page to actually show you the data set itself. So over here, you can see that the data set has already been created. I will just quickly show you how you can create your a new data set so that you can do it. So when you click on the new data set, it comes up with a very unique name. You can change it if you want, or you can just leave it as it is. I'm just going to leave it as it is for the time being. And of course, as we saw before, you can have a single label classification, or you can choose a multi-label classification, or use an object detection. So today we'll be sticking with the single label classification. So now click on create data set. All right. So the thing is, we've already uploaded our images, right, to our bucket. So we will only use the CSV file. So we'll just select the CSV file and upload it, so that there's some sort of a link between your AutoML vision and the bucket that you've already created before. So click on browse, and if you remember, this is basically the name of the bucket that we had already created. Click on that and say cats.csv, which is basically the file that will act as a link. So now if I click on continue, it's of course going to continue and create the bucket with all the details entered. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to go back to data sets because I already have it. So let's click on cat3, which is basically the data set that I had already created. And over here, you can see that we've uploaded a total of 30 images. So these are all of the 30 images. Now you also have the option to sort of filter that and see it class by class. So these are all the images that we have for the American bobtail, the ones for Bengal, and the ones for Savannah. So another thing that you can do over here is, let's say this is a Savannah cat, but you have incorrectly classified it. Let's say it was actually supposed to be a Bengal cat. So if you want to make changes, you can just click on Bengal to change the class directly from within the platform itself. And if you click on save, then the label is sort of reassigned now. But of course, we don't need any of that. So I'm just going to cancel it. And I'm going to discard my changes and get out of that. So like I said, I've already trained my model. So let's quickly see at how the model is doing. So over here, you can see that we have an average precision of about 75%, which I think is sort of fair enough because we only used about 30 images, out of which we actually used about 80% for training. So we trained on about 27 images, and we used about 3 images for testing. So this is basically the idea. So let's go and look at the evaluate measure. All right, so like I said, we've used a total of 27 and we only tested it on 3. So this is like the precision and the recall curves. And here you can see the confusion matrix. So you can see that 100% of all the American bobtails were actually correctly classified as American bobtail. Again, 100% of the Bengal cats were also correctly classified as the Bengal cat. And all the Savannah cats actually seem to be misclassified as a Bengal cat. Now, I think these sort of percentages are a little bit misleading. So let us toggle this on to item counts. So when you look at this this way, now it kind of makes more sense because we only used 1 image from American bobtail, 1 from Bengal, and 1 from Savannah. So the 1 image from American bobtail was correctly classified, the 1 from Bengal, and the 1 from Savannah was not correctly classified. Now, if you remember from before, the American bobtail cat was the one that had the very short tail, the stump-like tail. So of course, the computer or the machine learning model was able to correctly classify that. Whereas the Bengal and the Savannah, we knew that there would be problems, right? So that's basically the problems that was associated with that. Now you can also click on American bobtail over here, and you can see that this was a picture that was shown of the American bobtail, and the model was about 99.99% sure that this in fact is an American bobtail. On the other hand, with the Bengal, it was about 66.5% sure about this being able to classify this as a Bengal cat. And with Savannah, you can actually see that the title changes from true positive to false negative. And this is because if you remember, the Savannah was actually misclassified. So over here, you can see that the model was only about 1% sure when it classified this as Bengal. So we already realized this, right? We already knew that this was going to happen because both of these cats looked very similar in their coat colors and their stature. So yes, so this was basically something that we anticipated. So now let's get back to our demo. All right. So that was the quick demo. And actually, as we were running through the demo, I saw someone's comment asking about how long it's going to take to train about 1,000 images. So personally, I've not trained 1,000 images, but I do know from one of the documentation that's available that it's going to take you about 3 hours or so. So again, that's something to keep in mind. So we're now to the very end of the presentation. So I'm just going to tell you about how you can actually test it for yourself. You can do it right now, by the way. So all you have to do is go to this particular URL. It's cloud.google.com/free. And as soon as you sign up for this, it's going to immediately credit you with about $300. And And what's the best part about this is that you don't only get to sort of demo the AutoML Vision API, you also get to demo all of the other APIs that are available. So for example, the Google Storage bucket, the other artificial intelligence APIs, the ones that you see on screen, basically the compute ones, any of these you can actually sort of go ahead and play around with them. So if you want to learn more about AutoML Vision, I would suggest you look at the AutoML Vision Beginner's Guide, which is basically the documentation that is provided by AutoML. So it's a very good documentation, and I think it's enough to get you started. But if you would like more of a step-by-step tutorial where you want to see what's really happening, then I suggest you go in for the quick labs. And I think that the quick labs might be also an easier way to start off into AutoML, because you might recognize one of the examples, the one that Laurent was talking about with the clouds. So they basically use a sort of version of that. And also, but the ones on the quick lab is more code-based as opposed to what I just showed you. So just be ready for that. Do not get overwhelmed. And finally, you can also look up this wonderful channel called the Google Tech Cloud on YouTube. So they have mini-sized videos, or what you would call bite-sized videos, to actually walk you through this whole process of AutoML. So if you have anything else, you can leave it down in the comments, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you so much. I will just put down the resources and everything in the comment box in a short time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I think to some extent, what Laurent covered, you had actually shown us how you can actually use AutoML and did the entire step-by-step process. So as you can see, everyone, it's actually pretty simple and easy, as long as you classify the images and store it in the cloud storage bucket, and then use the API, AutoML API, to train it, and then use that model to then use it as an API. So I hope you enjoyed the session from Rachel. So with that, we still have a lot more coming. So we are coming to the last session. And after the last session, I would want to kind of give you all with some more demos and a quick, again, it's going to be just a quick demo as well as some more resources for you to get started with. So stay tuned for that. So with that being said, thank you, Rachel, once again. And we'll have Wafa, who's going to cover some interesting topics from Angular. Hi, Wafa. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Sachin, for the introduction. I'm going to shortly share my screen and show you. We'll get started.
Yeah, thank you, Wafa. And for everyone who's joining us for the very first time, Wafa is one of our women tech makers as well, tech maker ambassadors as well. So she's excellent in what she does. And here is her take on Angular 12, Inline SASS, and Tailwind. So take it away, Wafa.
Thank you. Just setting up my screen. Okay, so we are live. Like you're able to see my screen and everything's fine, right?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yeah, all
Okay.
good. Okay.
So welcome everyone, and thank you for your support throughout this event. I am sure you guys have had a lot of fun, interesting updates, and a lot of even like the opportunity to interact with the Google Cloud Advocate, and Sachin had amazing walkthrough of the highlights. Now we're going to talk about one particular thing, and that's a web framework, a web application framework, specifically a front-end web application framework, which is Angular, and it's powered by Google. So Angular recently had an update, and that's the version number 12. So we're going to see specifically all about inline CSS and Tailwind. So Yeah, just a little bit about me. I am a software engineer here based in Qatar, and I've done a lot of sessions. I mostly talk about web and user experience. And what you see below is my Twitter handle. So in case you want to follow me, because I'll be shortly doing a blog article after this talk for you to have like a complete walkthrough of how to, with live demonstrations and code examples. Today, what we'll see is like a slight sneak peek and get a flavor of what inline SASS and Tailwind is, and why is Angular even supporting it? Why is styling become like such an important thing that there's support from a huge framework which is developed by Google. So we're going to look into these, and let's get started. So let's first talk about Tailwind and what it is and how it's different from the other UI frameworks out there, and then let's talk about how you can particularly integrate Tailwind inside Angular, and we'll also see like a code example. So that's gonna be the format pretty much of the presentation. So let's talk about Tailwind. Tailwind CSS, it's a utility-based CSS framework. And it's one CSS framework, but you don't have to write any CSS. So it facilitates rapid development, and you have there's it depends on the perspective you're looking at it from. You can either start from scratch using this framework, if you're using Bootstrap or any other UI library, you probably have to I mean, let's talk about the general issues, right? Like if you're using a Bootstrap or I don't know, Angular material, kind of like a UI framework, one of the issues is like you want to control a lot of things, like the spacing between two cards, or I don't know, two different elements. It's not that easy. It doesn't give you that flexibility. Whereas Tailwind, being a utility-based CSS framework, it doesn't give you any such rules, like any such overheads of ready-made components like Bootstrap does, for example, cards, or even buttons, for example. So if you want to customize like the way button looks, you have to write some additional CSS to support to make it look like your way, your user design, like the kind of look and feel your app has. So depending on your perspective, it's actually an advantage or a downside. Either you start from scratch, or starting from scratch particularly, it can be an advantage because it gives you more freedom. You can say that, okay, this is how I want this particular button to look, this particular card to look. You have more control, so it's more imperative, and you kind of build the structure, the styling and everything. But if you use it's a downside because you are starting from scratch, so you have to build all these things by yourself. And of course, it's not recommended for prototyping or proof of concept kind of a phase where you have to do everything by yourself. Tailwind is specifically for someone who's writing a serious web app. It's gonna hit production. It's gonna be serving a lot of clients. You have a design brand guideline that you wanna follow, and you want more freedom. You're looking for more freedom. It specifically caters that kind of developer segment. So and now let's talk about how is it different from Bootstrap, right? I mean, we told that already, but if I have to say concrete points, it's highly composable, and it uses low level utility classes, just margin top 5 pixels. It's gonna be empty 5. It's just one class name that I keep adding to my HTML. And I really love Tailwind because I don't have to move away from my HTML. You just keep typing over there. You're just using HTML, and you're just going all utility classes. You're just composing your the look and feel of your app. You're basically styling your UI. And one thing about how Tailwind is different from Bootstrap is that it's not a UI kit, and I think we mentioned that already. It gives you all these elements, and it also gives you power to control them, but it does not give you the component on its own. It doesn't give you a button by itself, with the style and everything attached. It doesn't give you a card by itself. It gives you like more abstraction, less abstraction, and a lot of control. So it's very also component friendly. Like, if you look at the way these the frameworks have been evolving, like the component based architecture of React or Angular, like these frameworks, they follow a component based architecture. So if you're writing highly scalable web apps, then Tailwind is of course CSS friendly. You have one component which is just by the way, a component is just a piece of UI. So it's very component friendly in the sense where you can isolate it. So imagine, in your web app, you have this problem of there's particularly like a header component, and there's another component which is like the side nav, and you want like the header to kind of go underneath the side nav, but it's just like overlapping and you're not able to control it, and that drives me crazy. So like using Angular material, it's really hard, and Bootstrap, it's hard, but using also like the overlap of the top nav styling that Bootstrap offers, and also like the side nav styling that the Bootstrap offers, it's overlapping. How do you compose these two properly? And there's also like if you're modifying the CSS of the header and the CSS of the the side nav, at times you don't know where the parent is, and CSS is nothing but cascading style sheet, right? So at times you end up doing underscore, what do you call it? Exclamation important for everything based on just to make your CSS style being applied, but that's not really a good practice. So Tailwind is very component friendly because it kind of like all your CSS stays within the component, and it stays within the HTML of the component. So there's like isolation of separation of concerns, and it's like separate. So it's very component friendly in that way. And yeah, I wanted to go through how you can get started with Angular. Get started with Tailwind using Angular. So that happens in like 3 simple steps, and we're gonna see like not a complete demonstration, but a flavor of how Tailwind works with Angular now. But these are the 3 simple steps for you to get started with Angular. So once you have an Angular project working, you just have to npm install this Tailwind package, Tailwind CSS. And what this does is it installs like the post CSS, which is like a compiler. It basically transpiles all your the Tailwind classes to CSS. Tailwind at the end of the day, it's a library, right? So all those classes, they get converted into CSS, and the browser can at the end understand, okay, this is what the user wants, and your browser renders it that way. So first step, you just install the package in order to support it with Angular, and then what you do is you create a Tailwind config. That can happen just by using the command npx tailwind.css. Yeah, I'm just seeing the questions. So it doesn't have components. Yeah, it does not have components. It does not have components. It just has utility classes. Yes, and of course you have more control. Yeah, you need to choose Tailwind for more control. Great. So getting back to that, the second step you'll do is like npx tailwind css init. What this does is it creates a tailwind.config.js. It's a config file where you can, Angular basically renders, a bunch of configuration for your app to understand that all the HTML, the CSS utility classes that you've been using inside your HTML, it's just a setup. And what Angular 12 also does is like it also supports with some Webpack build config. So that's what is happening to be very transparent behind the scenes. So once you install Tailwind CSS, it's gonna like and do a Tailwind CSS in it. You have some config, and that's it. You're good to go. This is what Angular 12 has done. Before this, the scene was completely different. You know, Tailwind CSS evolved in like I think 2017, 2018. It became like more popular. A lot of people started adopting to it because of more control, of course, and yeah, but Angular was not supporting it natively. So in Angular 11 beta version, they gave some support, and Angular 12 they made it like official. So this is what it means to have support for Angular. Like basically it just boils down to 3 steps, and you have to you can start using Tailwind in your Angular apps. So now I want to show you a demo of how we can use Tailwind. I wanted to do like a local setup, but it's going to be time consuming. So we're going to be using something like StackBlitz, which is an online code editor. It allows you to create these apps, and it makes your code more shareable. So what I did was I just created StackBlitz for showing you like the Tailwind CSS, and I've already installed Tailwind CSS. If you can see under my dependencies, I have Tailwind CSS installed already. So basically I did the step 1 already, and the step 2, you can see that I've generated the config file. Now let's look at how we can use some of the resources to build a Tailwind, like our UI using Tailwind. So I wanted to first introduce you to the Tailwind CSS website itself is very friendly. The document and everything they have, like it's very well written and clean. But there are other websites like tailwindcomponents.com where you can find these components, and you can basically use the code in order to achieve in order to get that particular UI. So as you can see, like before we create a card, let's look at how the code is looking. This is just a simple app.component.html that I have, and if you look at I don't have anything in my CSS. A disclaimer, by the way. All I'm generating this is through Tailwind classes, like all the utility classes that Tailwind provides. So if you just look at, it's very responsive as well. If you just look at this button, for example, how this button works. This button is just this piece of code, line this anchor tag. So just like any anchor tag, it has a just like any tag, it has a class property, and for that class property is where we'll be attaching all the utility classes of CS, like utility classes of Tailwind. So we can we can just play around with the classes, and we'll be able to like customize easily. And these classes, like I do agree that they're like a little hard to start with, but once you get a hang of it, you're just gonna be like, okay, I want margin top 5 pixels, and you're just gonna say MP5. You'll just develop a flavor for it, and it will come naturally. But until then, I'll show you some resources on how you can easily get started. So this is the button. Now, we saw like how we can get some reference from a website like Tailwind Components, right? So let's go ahead and create this card. It's as easy as copy paste, and that's it. It creates the card for you. But you have more control in terms of with every element that you want to control. It's no longer CSS. It's a utility based class. And you have control over everything that you want to control. So if you want to show this example, this font particularly in a maybe gray color, you'll just say text gray. text bytes. Okay, so now it went to, now if I do gray, yeah. So it's basically, if I want, smaller text, it's text SM. And if I don't want margin, this is margin bottom. MB stands for margin bottom. So if I don't want margin, I want margin on top, I can do that as well. So yes, it'll definitely reduce a lot of coding time. So this is like just a flavor of how CSS, how Tailwind works. And I did promise you to show you how you can use cheat sheets to get started. Like until you get a flavor of what these are, like these classes, like how you can use them. You can rely on cheat sheets, and once like you get a hang of it, you can just like you no longer need them. So the first cheat sheet I really like is this one, because this is how I think. Like this one is organized it by the attributes that you want to control. So this is like all the colors and all the shades that you'd need. It starts with like gray 50, gray 100. So you know that you just have to use this class and that's it. And spacing, and these are all the pseudo classes, like which is the events and everything, and the opacity and colors. It just breaks it down by the utility. So I really enjoy this cheat sheet more. And for the breakpoints, for responsive design specifically, it also gives you like how much each pixel you should kind of consider for your layout. And these functions, like they're all inbuilt as well inside Tailwind. And these are like for the alignment, sizing, grid. Tailwind supports Flexbox and grid layout, just like Bootstrap and any other framework. But what here you get is more control, and you can say like flex row, and it's gonna be a flex row, and you can basically play around with just one class. Whereas if with Flexbox and Angular Material, for example, I'd be like really stuck. I want more space, and I want this, and I want that, and I'll be switching to CSS, and I'll be like I'll be stuck. Like I'll be totally lost. Whereas with Tailwind, it's just like classes, and I just have to use like there's these for direction, there's these for wrapping. It's more easy, and yeah, the syntax is very easy, and yes, yeah, separation of concerns, of course. Okay, so I have a few interesting what do you call it, resources for you. I can share it in the comments after my talk, but these are like for you to like get started. Basically, Tailwind components, like any component you want, it's open source, so it's just gonna be like available off the hook, and you can get started, you can play around, you can customize. And Build with Tailwind is an excellent guide to like just start learning Tailwind. And if you're new to grid layout, then you can specifically for Tailwind, how do grids work, you can go around here. And if you just don't want to mess with you just want to learn Tailwind, and you don't want to like overwhelm yourself with the Angular app or anything, yes, you can definitely do that, and you don't have to install anything. There is a playground and available already. So if you just go to tailwind.unravel.eu, you'll get a playground that is like a interactive environment where you can play around with all these classes and get used to it. And of course, the cheat sheets that we just saw. There are many, but I just showed you one. So now let's talk a little bit about SASS, right? Like that was all about Tailwind that we could cover. Now let's talk about SASS and why does Angular support it? So if you're familiar with Angular architecture, you'll know that Angular supports inline HTML, Angular supports inline CSS, and there are a lot of cases where it's just like I don't want to separate my HTML from CSS. There are a lot of people who do that, and I'm one of them too. So at that time, like, you can't just keep using CSS. And before even we talk about Angular, let's introduce SASS now. SASS is it's awesome. SASS is awesome. SASS, what is it? It's actually it actually stands for syntactically awesome style sheets, and it's basically, you can say that it's smart CSS, and you can also put it in a way where you can call it CSS with scales. By the way, if you just want to talk about front end technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, HTML has come a long way with HTML5 and CSS3 as well. But this CSS3 is like, in addition to the media objects, there's not a lot of like breakthrough improvements. CSS is still CSS, cascade style sheets, and everyone from like the age of since like HTML was born and the web language and the web world was born, are used to writing CSS the way it's written. I mean, it's very like if you it's not scalable in sense, like you cannot have variables, you cannot have a lot of things you do with JavaScript. It's like basically writing everything. It's very imperative. So what SASS does is that it gives you all these cool features. It gives you features like variables. It gives you features like methods, like basically these object-oriented paradigms. It helps you to kind of write CSS in that way. So you can have variables, you can have methods, and you can also do nesting. Oh my God! Imagine a CSS file with no nesting. I mean, imagine someone gave you a project where you have to fix like a particular way the UI looks, and it's all crowded, right? Like nesting is such a big thing. Like you cannot code properly if there's no CSS obviously does not like support nesting natively. You just have to like have a selector and a flower bracket to write like control some properties. So yeah, I've seen merge shops that use SASS. What's a merge shop? If you can elaborate on what a merge shops. Oh, merge. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, a lot of people use CSS. It's not like I mean SASS. It's not like it has to be used with Angular. It's just a tool like Tailwind or anything else out there. So just to talk more about nesting and selector method, like you do have selectors in CSS. You say dot for a class and then hash for a ID to just give you like a quick recap. But with selector inheritance that SASS offers, what you can do is like you can inherit. So there's a parent, and I can say that this selector I want to apply to some other part as well. So that's one of the examples. And also, like you can do some math operations finally, right? Like for responsive design specifically, I had to create make my web app more responsive. And when you're facing a deadline, you don't really do always like mobile first kind of an approach while you're designing a web app. So it's more like I had a web app and I had to make it responsive recently, and I was having a lot of trouble because it was just CSS. It was plain CSS, and I couldn't like use variables, methods, or any of these. So with SASS, what you can do is like you can compute these responsive sizes for every different screen, and saying that this button should always look in this particular size in all browsers. Like you can make it more responsive. You can make it more scalable to that particular based on the device size. So all that is possible by doing some math operations. I've always like you have to like kind of based on the device size kind of narrow down how the UI is positioned and the UI is styled as well. So all that is possible using SASS. And that was a lot about SASS. Now let's talk about what SASS means to Angular 12. Like why is Angular even supporting it? Now, like, the Angular developer community, the team behind Angular, they're actively listening to all of our problems, all of the Angular developers' problems. And if you follow them on Twitter, you'll know, like, how responsive they are, and even their GitHub issues and how friendly they are to contribute. So they've been listening, and they finally, wanted to kind of resolve this big problem where developers are, okay, I don't want to have a separate HTML and CSS file for my component, and I want to like put it all in one, the .ts file, if you're familiar with how the Angular components are structured. So what they said is like, yes, okay, we do understand a few people don't want to separate it, and at times there's like more to a component. A component just does not have a lot of HTML and CSS, and you don't have to have a separate HTML file, CSS file for it. All of it can be in the .cs file, and you can just put them inside the component decorator. We'll now see like how we'll do all this in the demo, but you should basically understand that Angular 12, with Angular 12, what we get is like we can write SASS inline. At first we used to just, Angular was just supporting inline CSS, but now they're supporting inline SASS. And this is possible with just 2 steps. And that is, while you're installing your Angular app, it gives you options to kind of select between SASS or CSS as your, CSS or SCSS as your default styling language. So if you choose, you need to first enable SCSS, and then inside the Angular.json, you'll enable the inline style language property. So once these two are like it's so easy that you just have to set this up, and that's it. Inline SASS is ready. Like your Angular app can support inline SASS. So let's see how it's done with the Stack Blitz example. And let's also look at like what more Angular SASS offers if we have. So this is another Stack Blitz, like I had said. Let's first look at what just plain SCSS means. At times you just have a component which is this big. This is a component decorator, and you have a selector, you have a template URL. This is where you're pointing to your HTML, and then you have some style URLs. Like this is pointing to your style sheet. This is a general component, a component decorator. But at times, like you don't want to have these separate files, and you just want to dump in your SCSS code here, and that's what Angular 12 is now supporting. In this example, we're going to see an example of how SCSS works for us to better understand how we can do inline styling. So as you can see, this is plain HTML. SCSS is nothing but, what you do is like, it's just like CSS, but what example we're not going to see is just how we can use a simple variable, right? Like we'll start with variables, and we'll look at more features of SASS in the website here. So first, what you're doing is you're just styling the P tag, the paragraph tag, and you're using a variable here for it. So for example, if your app has a particular brand guide, and you want to follow that particular color everywhere, you don't have to type that color code manually everywhere. And using this variable, you just have to like set it once, and that's it. What SCSS or SASS provides is a way to import these. And you basically have styles folder and a variable and a place where you can set your variables. So here you're using like inside the styles folder. If you see the variable, like here the test color is set to red. So it's basically in one place. Imagine this being used in several other places, and all I have to do is test color everywhere. And when my brand color changes, I'll just have to update in one place. So that it makes it that simple. And we just saw like how SASS is like really useful for an Angular app. Let's look at more details about SASS. We saw how to create variables already. There's a SASS and a SCSS version of it. They're both the same, but SASS is more like you don't have nesting. They both compile down to CSS. So what you see here is like sasslang.com/guide. This is the official website for SASS, and it kind of wonderfully lists down, the difference between how you do it in SASS and how you do it in CSS, and what SASS allows. So this is an example that we just saw on the stack lids as well. You're just setting the variable here. You can do this in separate files as well, as I just showed you. There's also nesting that we talked about in the presentation, right? So here, with CSS, it's you don't need, if you basically type this in the same line without doing an enter, it will still work. Whereas with SASS, you get more readability and nesting. So it's tab nested here. And it'll show you an error if it's not indented properly. So this gives you readability and also scalability. At a point where you can say that, oh yeah, this is where I was, I wanted to change something, and you'll just go right into it. And you can basically also create modules. A particular group of CSS belongs to one particular property, one particular component, or one particular feature. Then you can just call it something in a separate SASS file, and you can just import that SASS file by just saying use base, and that's it. You can start using whatever variables and whatever styling you just set. There's also mixins, inheritance. I'd recommend you guys to go through this tutorial in detail. But yeah, that's what mostly SASS does, and yeah, this is what I have for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wafa. I think that was a very insightful session on especially Tailwind and SASS, along with Angular. So for people who are new to Angular, it's an excellent framework. We use it as well to build a lot of our applications. So once you get into it, you'll understand all the benefits that it brings. And along with that, with Tailwind and SASS, I think it would kind of make the entire development a little more seamless as well. So once again, thanks a lot, Wafa, for sharing your knowledge with us, and looking forward for more in the coming future as well.
Thank you so much.
With that, guys,
I just want to
so
say, if you follow me on Twitter, you can also get the blog article that I'll be writing shortly about this session. Okay.
So make sure to follow Wafa on her social media channels, as well as Wafa, you can let everyone know about the links in the chat session.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
So with that, everyone, we are coming to an end for the Google I/O Extended Doha. But one last thing before we end today's session, and it's going to be fun. So what we need to do right now is, I hope you all have your phones with you right now. And what we'll also be doing is, while we are going through this, I'm going to share my phone right now. And for all the things that we've done and learned today, we'll just have a quick summary as well. So if you have your phones ready, the first thing that we will do is we're going to see some augmented reality announcements that was done in Google I/O as well. So the first thing to do is, let me share my screen. And I hope this would come through properly to you all. So yeah, I can see Alfax saying that he just finished charging the phone. Perfect. So you're just in time for this. So let's do this. So the first thing I want you to do is go to your Google search and search for this tennis star, Naomi Osaka. I hope I said that right. So once you search for her, if you just scroll down, and if your phone is compatible, what you would then see is a 3D model of Naomi Osaka. So what you could then do is click on this view in 3D. So this would open up a 3D model, okay? And you can see how she serves. Now, what I could then do later is from here, you can view in your space. So once you click on that, so I can either do this or I can turn around and show you the entire screen. So as you scan, you can see that, and I can actually drop her here. And we can actually see Osaka in 3D. We can actually see her rendered in 3D. And along with that, you can move, you can resize, and you can also do some more other functionalities like the rally. And you can, of course, resize and paste anywhere. And you can also see the shadows and other things. And this is a slow motion shot. And this is all of you guys over here. So thank you all for joining that. I hope you guys enjoyed that demo. And along with that, you can also try one more. So you can search. Again, if you've not seen this, you can actually search for other things like, animals, like tiger and all of those things, and it would be rendered in 3D as well. So if you're trying to show this to your kids, it's an excellent way for you to actually have those animals shown within your space. And most of this is possible using AR Core and AR for Web. So the browser is getting much more powerful in rendering all of this directly from the browser as well as based on your phone's camera. So a lot of this can be learned. So before we end the session, one thing that I would like to say is for everyone who's joined us today, and if it's your very first time, if you're not aware of the YouTube channel Tech with Search. So again, this is a channel where I come in and it's my own personal channel. We do everything from chatbot tutorials to machine learning tutorials to Google Assistant, AR, VR. A lot more is coming right your way, especially a new Google Cloud series that we kind of discussed before. So make sure that you go to youtube.com/techwithsearch, and I will have most of you join there during the next live sessions that would happen. So you'll have a more frequent set of videos coming your way. And with that being said, just a reminder for everyone who's attended this session, we are giving away a Chromebook. So we have 25 Chromebooks. One out of the 25 could be yours. All you need to do is register. And just to summarize, click on Become a Cloud Expert and come down and then choose the sign up. Once you sign up for it, make sure you choose the onboard, finish the onboarding program, and then you'll be contacted if you're the first 25. So all the best for each and everyone who's going to be part of that. I'm very excited. And also let us know what you enjoyed about the entire session. We would like to see you guys on social media. So make sure to follow us on that. And if you have not yet registered and become a member for Google Developer Groups Doha, I would highly encourage that you go to gdgdoha.com and then join and become a member so that you can be notified for all these events that we have lined up for you in the future. So with that being said, thank you all once again for joining us. This was our I/O experience where we could bring some of the magic from Google I/O to Doha, and I hope you all enjoyed that. And make sure that if at all you're using the photo booth or if you're capturing any of these, use the hashtags Google I/O, GDG Doha, and I/O Extended. And also tag us on social medias. And with that being said, this is Google I/O Extended. Hope you all enjoyed, and see you all in the next one.